I was talking about Elon Musk and fucking Zuckerberg.
Okay, so that's real.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just talking about that, and I was talking about.
When is that going to happen?
I don't know. Dana White was talking about it. He said they both reached out to him about really wanting to fight each other. Like, these billionaires really want to fight each other, which is fucking nuts. Which I'm all for. Do it. Let them fucking go in there and fight.
I think they should get Bezos, too.
Dude, Bezos is juiced up, though.
I don't want to jump in too much, but who do you guys think would actually win that?
I think that Zuckerberg is a little bit more of a sociopath.
Doesn't he train them?
Well, they both.
All I know is a Rogan.
Okay,
but I've seen clips from like a Rogan clip on YouTube or something where he's talking about Zuckerberg, where it has some training footage.
He won an actual jiu-jitsu tournament, or he placed in it. He did well, but they're the same. I'm pretty sure they're the same level of belt, whatever it is.
Also, he's dorkier, so he's got more to prove.
Yeah,
and
he's not as cool as Elon.
Okay, so when I was I was forced to do this thing called Best Warrior, and it's a collection of military-related things like a road march, and excuse me, I had to do a combatives tournament, and one of the dudes that won it was someone who trained very hard leading up to it because he like really cared about it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like if we don't hear anything about Elon training really hard and the other dude cares really hard about it, he's probably gonna fucking win. Especially if he's winning tournaments and shit.
Well, Elon's making jokes, right? He's like saying, I got this move called the walrus where I just lay on you. So he's making jokes. I don't think that Zuckerberg's fucking around.
No.
Like, I think that he'll come out there and try to kick his ass.
Do you think this is just a distraction from how shitty
with the Hunter Biden shit?
Oh no, just from how both of them run their companies and stuff, and their social media companies, and and they sell our information and everything. Do you think it's just distraction?
I do. I think that's what it is.
Get on everybody's good graces by going hanging out with Dana White in the UFC.
Yeah, they just make it seem like they're fucking enemies.
I don't like those guys.
I
wouldn't want to hang out with them on a podcast. I wouldn't want to talk to either one of them.
No. It's funny. Rogan told me that when Elon's around, he feels like a dog because he's just so much smarter than he is. You know, he's just like.
I don't know about that because like he's very smart, sure, but I mean he's also just like a fucking rich kid, man.
Yeah.
Like there's videos of him like I'm buying my first $1 million car. Like he grew up with money.
Yeah. Dude.
Like
I have a hard time respecting guys that don't come from the gutter. You know, like.
You don't have to come from a gutter because you can be cool and have money, but it's just that he's just not. Neither of them are cool. Maybe that's
they're
my problem.
nerds, dude. They're super fucking nerds.
You could be nerd and be cool. They're just. I think that maybe the predatory company.
Super nerd.
I think the predatory company thing is what bothers me the most.
Oh, for sure. And then Elon fucking tries to play like the good guy buying Twitter, right? Tries to play the good guy, and he's like, "Free speech is back," this and that. And then what's he do? Starts fucking censoring people right away.
Especially if they criticize him.
Exactly.
That's what that leads to? Oppression, fascism. That's like the stepping stone of brown shirtism right there. Is just like
we're on that path for sure.
Weirdly some of both sides too. A lot of like telling you what to do thing instead of like reducing the restriction that we have and improving our rights and everything. It's like the weirdness from both sides, more so on the right, but the left does a little bit of it with the shaming aspect of the woke thing, which I agree with all progressive stuff, but like the way that it's done is important, especially when you have an entire generation of people who are like, this is all fucking different. We don't like this. This is weird. Because I think it was the
dude looks like a lady.
The Aussie comedian Jim Jeffries had a bit where he's just like, his dad just got over gay people yesterday. Don't bring up fucking trans right now because he's like he just accepted gay people yesterday.
Yeah,
or whatever.
It's a lot, dude. So it's a lot of shit.
It's going pretty quick too because of the phones. That's why you gotta take these. You gotta put them away. You gotta breathe
and breathe for a little while, man.
Can you nasal breathe one?
Yeah.
Do you do that regularly too?
Yeah, dude. I try to focus on sleeping with my mouth closed, like all that.
Did you tape? Did you tape your mouth?
I never had to tape. No.
I tried it, but I don't think I need to at this point.
I think I'm gonna have to do it with my youngest daughter though, because she just will not fucking keep her mouth closed when she sleeps. Like I can't get her to do it. So I think they make this little frog thing. It makes it look like you got frog lips, and it keeps her mouth actually open still. So I'm thinking about trying that with her.
As long as it's not weird and like
constricted it's just a little piece of tape. That's it. But it just lets her lips open.
You don't need any kind of like recessed childhood trauma or anything. I'm just kidding.
If you don't have childhood trauma, did you even have a childhood?
Did you child at all?
Yeah. So what? All right. So let's give us your name, where you're from, like all that shit. Like I know we're just sitting here.
They call me Justin Lascek. My mom wanted my middle name to be Time.
Really?
Just she wanted to be Time. It's
That would've
Rudolph
been
though.
cool, just in time.
I am a medically retired Special Forces medical sergeant, would be the official term for a Green Beret who's a medic. And about 4 years ago, I was wounded in combat on my second deployment. And since then, I've just had to deal with being a double below the knee amputee. And I always say this because it is relevant to me, and it doesn't really like practically affect how I talk to you. But my balls were blown off too.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I'm on like test and stuff, and Clomid regularly.
And what? How does that? Did you notice a huge difference
With the Clomid or
Yeah.
the test?
with the test?
Well, I don't have testicles, period. So the urologist, he retired shortly after, and I did not. In retrospect, I don't agree with this, but he didn't give me tests for like at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or something.
That's kind of fucked
Because they said it like made the prognosis of it made the recovery worse or something like that.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. That's my problem with it too, because it doesn't make sense. But I remember. I mean, I looked like I was. Because when I got hurt, I was like 205, 210 or something like that, like 6 foot.
I saw a picture. You fucking yoked.
And my upper body after got a little bigger than when I was working, because my upper body got smaller because I was like a mountain goat. I had like my quads were huge. I needed like 3 tourniquets on each leg when I got blown up. Well, I'm gonna need your help staying on task. What the fuck was I talking about? I was telling you something about I've been blown up, and
You're talking about you were blown up and they blew your balls got blown off.
they did.
And then, so
Where
how
we-
did that happen? How did you like? What was the fucking
Like that
walk
day.
me through that day.
So generally speaking, at that point in the war, when I got to 10th Special Forces Group at Fort Carson, we had
Can
assumed
you tell me where you're at? Like where at in the world? Where are you?
Afghanistan.
Okay.
The Afghan war had gotten to like a counterterrorism approach, which is different than like a nation building approach, right? Because you're going to kill the enemy. And the only people doing that were special forces in the army, and then a smaller ranger contingent that was like rotating pretty regularly. And then we had sort of different commands, and then we were sort of working together and had separate stuff going on. But for the most part, as far as enduring missions going on, it was a Green Beret show. And on both trips, my first deployment was in September 17 to like March 18. So we go for 6 months. And in Afghanistan, I was in Nangarhar, which borders Pakistan in the kind of like eastern or southeastern corner. And there was a contingent of ISIS there called ISIS-K, which is from the Khorasan province, which historically is kind of like eastern Iran and western Afghanistan. Because Afghanistan borders Iran, Pakistan, China, former Soviet, Central Asian states. It's crazy. Afghanistan's this keystone state. But the Khorasan province was like some ancient, I think Khorasan means sun. But anyways, Sharia law stuff coming back from that. And so like ISIS main, hey, we're going to work with you. I don't know, we're going to syndicate with you, how that works. But an ISIS-K element was pushing into Afghanistan, and they were taking valleys and like killing people and definitely oppressing the shit out of them and murdering and taking wives and stuff. So
Can you hold on? Let's pause for a minute. Can you imagine if we're just at home, you and your wife are at fucking home, and some people bust in the door and take your fucking wife away from you? Can you imagine?
my friend, so there's a man who lives in the United States. I won't say specifically where or what his name is, but he was an interpreter for us, and he worked with, I'll just say, U.S. forces for like 20 years. So he's an Afghan man with a large family, and he's here, but he had to defend his home from attacks like that with an AK in between missions with us.
Dude.
So that guy lives in the States, and I am writing letters and lobbying to senators or whoever does funding for charities and shit to push money to take care of him and his family, because that dude, I might be dead if it weren't for that guy, and plenty of other Green Berets would have been fucking dead if it weren't for that guy, as an example. So I just wanted to share that part because it popped in my head because you said, what if that happened? Because, yeah, that doesn't happen here unless you are very poor and the police are coming in your house.
Yeah, but even then, nobody's going to come and take your fucking wife away unless they did something wrong.
Yeah, and keep her as a slave and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal.
Or mutilate your kids or something like, you know what I mean? Like, you just, the shit that goes on over there is
I've
fucking
seen
wild.
I'm not gonna say, but I've seen videos and no stories that are not appropriate to say on anything like this, but of just them coming in and summarily killing village elders in a public display.
Just bring them out in the street. And kill
Yeah,
them
so like we knew Taliban were bad, but personally, to me, knowing the country and studying it like a professional and studying languages and shit, like I knew the Taliban would be part of the future, but ISIS had no part in the future, and Taliban fucking didn't like ISIS, and Taliban wanted us to kill ISIS, so I was like, I'll go in and kill ISIS. Like that's what. So we went in and killed a lot of dudes there, and then it's mostly airstrikes. So it's moving around in valleys, or what I did, and during the daytime, and fighting people that are like in defensive fighting positions. Find out where they are so you can kill them, and
it's hunting.
you have to, yeah. And then I've specifically kind of done my own little hunting side quest, like on my own accord, because as a Green Beret, you have that autonomy to kind of do stuff like that, as long as you're doing it in a tactically sound way, which is just like everything you did fucking probably every day practicing football. You work on these fundamentals.
Yeah.
So you work on fundamentals because then you can build into working with next to someone and then doing a play and then having like a strategy and then how you're going to like do, I don't know how it gets more complicated from there, but that's, you learn the simple so you can now play chess, right?
Oh, yeah,
so you can fuck with people.
Well, it's funny you say chess because that's what we've always referred to football as. It's
It
a
is,
violent
yeah.
game of chess.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we're watching film on this fucking team all week. So you're watching the guy you're about to go against 60 times. You're gonna fucking bang heads with him. You're watching him
have a
over and
car
over. I'm
wreck.
looking for every little.
Yeah.
I'm looking at every little defect he has, every little motion he makes. Like where his feet are lined up on when he's going right, where his feet are lined up when he's going left.
Yeah.
How his feet look on a pass set when he's gonna be pass blocked.
Yeah.
And what he does when it's like when he doesn't know what he's doing, or when he looks nervous, or what he's doing when he's on a double team. Like all of that shit goes in, and then you have to process it all fast.
Yeah.
You know, so
That same type of thinking from being on the D line or being a linebacker, the way that you have to make reads and adjust very quickly with like shit that is right in front of you it's not like the same thing, but I'm just saying it's analogous to how you would like work with people in a stack to clear a room.
Yeah.
Because the learning process for doing that, like for you, would
muscle
make a lot
memory.
of sense, because it's like you do simple shit first and you work up, because before you even did any of that, you'd be doing like range, flat range, and then moving on the flat range, etc.
yeah.
But like the concept is, like, in my opinion, after I was a linebacker, we were talking about this earlier, so nobody this listening knows. I was a linebacker and played a little bit on the line, a little bit in college. So like that way you read that, I think, is similar. Because sometimes you come into a room and there's like a little guy that has like his hands are up, like, hey, don't shoot me on the target, you know, or it's a bad guy,
Yeah.
or it's like a don't shoot target, so or it has a hostage on it. So you
you're
have to like
processing
read,
things
yeah,
fast.
and it might be at night with the fucking lasers and shit.
Which blows my mind how you guys fucking do that.
No, you would. It makes it easier.
Really? With the night
Yeah, dude.
vision?
You just like, you don't have to aim. You just point, and when the laser hits someone in the chest, you just do.
Oh, okay.
Like, I haven't killed someone with that or shot someone with that, but like,
But doing training exercises, it's probably like,
I have friends that have though,
and they say it's
and
easier.
like 15 meters away, they're just like and like, there's
laser fucking money.
it's plus you can get like a flood. It's like a spotlight, and we would tune it to like the tire of a vehicle so that it was roughly man size, around like 10 meters or something. So if you could just put the spotlight on a dude's chest, you can fire, and you're like, because you don't have to be, if it's a bad guy, you don't have to be accurate with your first. It's like if I was pulling a pistol out, I'd be shooting here, do as I like rail out. Same thing, concept, but it's just like
Yeah, it's just firing shots, right?
It's, unfortunately, it's pretty cool. You don't have to be masculine to be cool, but you don't have to shoot guns to be cool, but it is cool to fucking shoot a laser. You really like that if you haven't done that.
I think it would be fun. I'm gonna definitely want to try it now.
You should probably do one of those things where they fucking fly the helicopter with the fucking night vision and shoot boar while
Shoot
they're
the
like
pigs.
running around and
Yeah,
shit.
that's something I really want to do, man. We should do that together. You
I
want to do
have.
that?
I would do it with you, yeah, just for the experience. I just flying in a helicopter, like shooting pigs, like a fucking sci-fi movie. That's like weird to me. Shooting pigs out of it.
It's so crazy. It's a wild ass concept.
But
It's fucking effective, and I guess it's everybody that has done
the
it
only
fucking
reason I
said
would be
it's fun.
okay with that is because they're a fucking huge ass pest, and like
Dude, those
we
things
wouldn't
are-
even if we fucking went on a killing spree that day, we wouldn't put a dent in
Not
the
even a
problem.
dent.
Yeah,
Not even.
and they're not even like super tasty, right? Like
No. No.
But they can be used for something.
Well,
if you wrangled them up and processed them, couldn't you feed
Well, I think
something with them?
Lane, you would know better. What is it like? 3 times a year they breed?
Damn.
Yeah,
That's
their
almost like a
gestation
rat.
period it's like a 3-3-3, so less than 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, and they are constantly turning out. And then
Dude.
they only have to be 6 months old before they can breed and start turning out more. So the turnaround time on these pigs
6
you got
months?
less than
Yeah.
6 months.
Damn, dude.
And how many piglets are they having?
Oh, they have up to 12.
Yeah, dude. So you're
And then
never
if
even
like
gonna
you
touch
kill the
that.
mom and like the piglets run off and they find another mom, they'll start sucking on that one.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
have
so
done? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
You know what I have? It just popped in my head. What I have done, this was not in combat, but it was in training in Nevada. But I was in the door. We were in Chinooks, which the top speed is, I don't even know what it is. It's classified. But I've jumped out of them, like skydiving and shit, and done a lot of riding in them, but nap of the earth, crazy stuff like in desert and mountains. And then we would ride those into, those are like the chariots you ride into combat.
Yeah.
So they're pretty cool. But there was a 240 machine gun in the door, and there's like tank holes out in the desert because aircraft will strike them. A-10s will shoot them with their awesome cannons if you've never seen those. And then, but they'll drop 500-pounders out there and shit. But I got to shoot like a fucking tank, like flying like over 100 miles an hour, like in the door. They did like multiple sweeps. I was like, keep going. It was so fucking sweet.
It's fucking
It was just
crazy.
like, it was just training. But like the guy was like, you want to shoot this? So I was like, yes, because we would be like, hey, we were flying around. I was like, that fucking mountaintop, can we just land there? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, all right, land there. And I was like, hey, come on. And I would like have them shoot grenade launchers and like just the 320, which looks like a toy, but I mean, it shoots fucking grenades, but smoke grenades and stuff like that too. But I would have the crew just like shoot them off the top of the cliff into the void of the desert because it was
Yeah.
all just like close air support range. But yeah, I've shot out of not at pigs, but like I've shot a machine gun out of the doors. And that was
Yeah,
pretty
so
cool.
you kind of know what it feels like.
And then I had friends that did some like, it's called aerial recon force, I think. If you have snipers in the helicopter,
Snipers.
yeah.
These
And so I
motherfuckers
had
are
some friends that are
sniping people out of
snipers,
the chopper?
and they didn't. I think they did take some shots, but it was more for the sake of training. But one of them had done some of it before, and he had ridden on a lot of helicopters in Iraq. But ARF is the acronym. And then so when they would have their sniper rifles, they'd be like, ARF, ARF, and they'd like run off to the
Yeah, like
helicopter to get
SEALs.
on. But that's also what the 2 Delta operators that got the Medal of Honor in Black Hawk Down were doing. They were sniping out of a helicopter. And I'm pretty sure there were PJs in that helicopter too. But Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart. And if I have it correct, Gary Gordon was in 10th Group. And that was, I think, October 3rd, 1993, but the Battle of Mogadishu. But
Yeah.
they came down, and then there was a down helicopter, and Michael Durant was, like, paralyzed, and he got taken prisoner. But they, like, defended him, and they died. So they both have Medals of Honor. But that's what they were doing in ARF, just technically, if you called it that. But, yeah, there's... Those were the stories I would read about. Like, we'd have to go do some admin bullshit meeting, like, at the end of the week or something in a big theater. And I would just go walk down the hall, and they had all these like plaques of people who are like in the Hall of Fame, and like those 2 dudes I would hang out. They had mustaches, and they did the most insane thing. That like there were like hundreds of people swarming, and they were just like, put us down, and they were like, yo, no, and they were like, put us down, and they said no, and they said put us down, and they were like, you know what that means, and they're like, put us down. You know what I mean? Like that's fucking
ultimate sacrifice there.
that's hard as shit. I mean, I put my, I don't know, I guess it's weird because like the things I've been in I didn't die, but I put myself,
You fucking damn.
I should have, but I've put my body between someone I was treating medically and where the machine gun was, in case we call it body bunkering in a house, which nobody can body bunker you, but if you and I went through a door, we'd be facing the opposite directions because if we get hit, then we're taking the hit, so we're bunkering the guy behind us with our plates.
Yeah.
So you create like almost like armored movement patterns with your plates facing out and the guns facing out.
Yeah.
But I've done that in a firefight before, but I have friends. One of my best friends, I showed you, don't mention what the picture was, but I showed you a picture of him earlier. I have friends who've been in situations where they thought that they were going to get attacked and killed, where they're holing up, and they're just like, I'm gonna fucking kill as many people as I can, and that's what those two dudes did, and that's like nobody should ever have to experience that.
Dude, I can't.
But like,
imagine.
there's people who can do, because that friend I'm talking about, he's like the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah.
If you were to meet him, and you should, because he'll be out here again. But
well, when he comes out, we'll definitely link with him.
yeah, he's cool. But people who have to, I don't know, it's crazy.
Well,
Just like war is crazy, what it does, because of what it
in
does to people.
Yeah, what it brings out of you.
But I don't think anybody, to clarify, I don't think anybody has to experience those things in order to like understand them or know them or get the lessons out of them.
Or respect it.
But it fucks everybody up that's involved.
Yeah.
No matter what, like war does. It's kind of like if I was gonna make it like an analogy to your job, your old job, like nobody's winning when you guys fucking hit every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're getting paid, but like, are you winning?
Yeah. At
Like,
the end of the day, we're all gonna be fucked, and we're gonna have.
hopefully, you can
dementia
remember your daughter's birthday when you're 50.
exactly.
Type thing.
Well, that's why we were talking about the microdosing.
Yeah.
And stuff. That's why I think it's so. Now we can segue right into that, because what's been huge for me after like transitioning out of the NFL, I have brain damage. Like, it's fucking fact. Like, my frontal lobe is damaged, and I have to.
I know you have scans, I assume, but like
Yeah.
we knew that was going to be the case.
I knew that was going to be the case. I didn't know that when I first started playing, like as a kid. Like,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
coaches said, "Put your fucking head in his chin," and I'm like, "Okay," and that's how I learned how to fucking hit people. And for 10 years in the NFL, every play I was fucking hitting somebody with my head, trying to knock his head back.
Yeah.
With my head,
Which is
so,
insane.
which is just like constant. You're doing it in practice. You're doing it like it's
Yeah.
just every day, and then it's the ones you don't even know about. Like, you're getting hit from the side, you don't even realize it. Next thing you know, you're like kind of nauseous and dizzy, and you just keep fucking going because.
And that's definitely a TBI, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Remember how I told you that Gronk came to the hospital when I was there? Like, one of the things he said, I was like, and your head's probably fucked up. And he was like, yeah, like when you get hit and you go back to the huddle and you don't know what anybody is saying, like you can't understand what they're saying. And I was like, dude, that's a fucking TBI.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you need to go and get a fucking MRI. And then that was when he retired. And then he came back and started playing again after that too. But that's significant.
yeah, dude, it happens
That's
a lot.
That's significant. A lot of. So, do you have a sauna in this house?
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to have a sauna in your new place too?
I have an infrared back
Okay.
there. I do a lot of cold tubs.
Okay.
I
So you're
do-
doing all those like holistic
Yeah,
things.
and I'm doing my brain mapping as well, which is I go to this place called Mind Gym, and they do like they hook me up, and it's just like a series of lights and sounds that
Yeah.
help kind of reverse the effect what's
Yeah.
happened, because what's
I'll
happened
probably
is
need to do-
what's happened is I've developed like this. Like, I've always dealt with anxiety and depression just because of the shit. Like, I had like very traumatic childhood, very violent and traumatic childhood. Like, my earliest memories are just violence and fucking crazy shit going on. So it always, like, football was like the segue for that. It was kind of like that was the medicine, was the violent to more violence. Like,
It was at least the avenue where some of it got to come out.
I got
in
to
some
use
way.
it. I got to use the anger and the rage
Yeah.
and channel it. And then when I was playing, I was taking microdoses, and that was helping. Like, I was, Vikings used to take mushrooms before they would fucking raid.
Did you watch that Northman movie?
Yeah,
That was sweet.
yeah, dude. That
And
fucking
I got the guy's book who was on staff to like give them advice. Like, he wrote a history book on Vikings, and I
I'd
haven't
like to
read it
read
yet.
that.
I haven't read it yet.
Like, when we talk about the treatments that I've done, I've. So, anyways, I took the mushrooms, and it would help me fucking channel that rage and like really lock it in. Like, I could really focus that rage into something good, like a good kind of rage, and it wasn't like out of control. Because when I was in high school, like, I've lost us games because I would fucking snap, like, and try to beat people with their helmets, like, just fucking snap on them, like, stupid shit that like is just not good for, like, you can't act like that, or like I'd walk into a McDonald's and fucking beat somebody up, like, just for like looking at me wrong, like, why the fuck's that guy looking at me? Then I get all paranoid about it, and that's all like from.
So you're hyper vigilant already as a teenager before you really got in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then once I got
From
the league,
whatever happened in the childhood
yeah,
stuff.
and once I got to the league, I had a really good rookie year and everything was cool, but like I was still like kind of fucked up, and then I was paralyzed in 2013. And
What was the rookie year?
2012. was
Okay.
my rookie year.
Oh, damn. The second year that happened?
So the second year in the league that happened.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, this could all be fucking done right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I had made some good money, but not enough to like live the way I wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not like my dreams hadn't been reached yet. I hadn't won a Super Bowl. I hadn't gotten my big contract. I wanted to play for 10 years. Like that was like the plan. But I got paralyzed in a fucking preseason game on some bullshit that should never happened. And I played 2 weeks later. I just like disassociated with it. I acted like it didn't even happen. And the whole time for 12 weeks straight, well, for 13 weeks, every fucking night, dude, I just was having like crazy suicidal thoughts, like really dark dreams, really dark, like wake up in the middle of the night paralyzed with a dark figure standing over me, like those type of hallucinations that were just like very fucking terrifying. And I just kept playing.
Did you get a really bad TBI when that happened, too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Was it what you described earlier when you were standing over there?
Yeah, I got cut. It was a cut block.
Yeah.
It was a cut block, and I was defending my legs and looking down, and then I got just fucking
Okay.
wow. on the top
Oh,
of the head.
right. So the downward force was applied from
so
the dude's head.
Bent,
Yeah.
it like compressed and bent my spinal cord. So right at the base of my brainstem is where it bruised. But they didn't know that at the time. They just thought it fucking had it. They called it a stinger. I was like, why a sting? You don't go paralyzed when you get a stinger. Like my toes couldn't move my toes. I couldn't move my mouth.
Yeah.
Like everything was gone.
That's
Everything was
crazy.
dead for like 3 hours. It felt like I sat on a toilet for too long.
Were you able to move at all,
No.
or were you just carted around?
I tried to get up right away, and as soon as I like pushed up in my arms, I felt everything just like melted, and I melted into the ground, and I was like, I can't move, like I couldn't move, and they were trying to ask me what was wrong, and I was going, oh,
That sucks.
like,
that's
the
sca-
sounds I
that's
was making.
crazy, dude.
and then they took me out on a fucking stretcher, dude, and I don't even really remember getting taken out on the stretcher, because like I said, I can disassociate with whatever the fuck is going on, like it's a
It's because
like
of trauma.
mechanism from my childhood.
Trauma.
Like it didn't even happen to me. That's why I can talk about it now. Like when I talk about my childhood, people say you talk about it like it didn't even happen to you. I'm like, yeah, because
Same thing with the blast
yeah,
and shit.
I'm sure you just like disassociate with it. Like, it's I don't know if it's unhealthy or not, but it helps me. Like, I know it happened to me, and I've like accepted it, but
I think
it's like
there's
control it.
there's utility in dissociating. Like it's a tool, right? At least it's a tool, because if something is happening, like we're almost like trained to do that as medics. But I've been in some shit where like I felt like there was like a palpable tension of like insanity going on because of what had happened, like other people and shit like that. So, remind me again what you just said though. I'm trying to tie this into what
About like when I was the paralyzation, and then the disassociation, how I disassociated with
Disassociating.
it so I could get back on the field.
Disassociating is
is
important if something's happening that's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
in the moment.
right. Like if you're a kid and something bad is happening to you, then that is useful to you, because then you're not like there for it or whatever. And so that is a tactic. And then you were like, I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm responding to that. I think that whether it's good or bad is dependent on like what it is that you're dissociating from, and has that thing doesn't have to be like, has that thing been addressed or renegotiated or processed, like that trauma or that whatever is causing this. It could be just working through something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've gone through a lot of treatments. Like I've put myself through a lot of treatments. Like, have you heard of EMDR?
Yes.
So I did EMDR treatment. That's
Are
where
you still doing it
No, not
at your
anymore.
other place? Okay.
Not anymore, but I did it for a while. I did it. When I did it was when I found out I was having a daughter. I was like, I got to figure my shit out. Like I got to get right.
Did you have someone in person?
Yeah, I did it in person. Yeah, it was. I actually checked
Did they
myself.
do fingers?
I checked myself. It was a lights.
Okay.
It was lights. I checked myself into a fucking treatment center for it because I was like,
Like an inpatient place?
I was having,
or like
I'd never
like stay at the place type
yeah,
thing?
I stayed there
Yeah.
for like 15 days because I just was like, I need to fucking address
I went to a
this shit.
place for 10 days at one point.
Yeah, just because it's scary, man. Like I was scared of myself.
Yeah.
I was very suicidal. Like there's been a lot of points in my life where I was like, thought about hurting myself and just like to get out of the situation I was in because I felt like that was the only way out.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't control it. I was like, why the fuck? And I'd snap out of it and be like, why the fuck are you feeling like that? Like stop, like quit. Like
Because that's the construct that has that back and forth has always happened probably in your career.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that came out and be like, we got a fucking job to do.
Yeah.
We got to go to bed
Let's
and
go.
we got to get up tomorrow and
You
go
gotta
fucking
go to
play
bed.
football.
You gotta get up. You gotta fucking practice.
So you had like this thing tugging you in a direction where you had this like blackness somewhere.
Yeah. And that was like, so in 2013 when that happened, that was really the first time in a long time that I felt like so depressed and miserable. And I was like, why am I fucking miserable? I'm living my dream.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I unhappy? And it was like, oh, it's because you can't even control what the fuck's going on. 12 weeks later, I'm on a bus. I'm in a full 3-piece suit, getting ready to fly to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. And I'm sitting there, and you know that feeling when you're really dehydrated? You know that feeling when you're super dehydrated and you're like
Uncomfortable.
about to like kind of,
Oh, yeah,
I feel dizzy, you know?
Yeah.
Like I need some fucking water, you know? I feel dizzy. Like I've sweated my ball. Like I'm sweating profusely. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And my buddy in a seat
Were you
beside-
on the plane?
I was on a bus getting ready to board the plane.
Okay.
And because we pull up right to the plane because we charter planes when we fly, so you don't go through like regular security and shit. You know, you don't go through the airport. You just pull up to the plane and do like little TSA thing, and then you're on. But my buddy beside me goes, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, dude, I need a Gatorade." He hands me a Gatorade. For some reason, he had one, and he was like, "Here," and I was like, I just fucking chugged it, dude, and I put it down, and I went. Like I just went, everything closed
This was the
in.
seizure?
Yeah,
Oh,
everything
okay.
just like closed in on me. Like it started getting dark from the outside in, and it just like closed down to this little ball of like nothing, and I just fucking fell over.
Damn.
And I woke up. Next thing I remember is they're pressing on my sternum. They're like fucking screaming at me and pressing on my sternum, and I woke up and I was like, "What the fuck?" And they were like, "It's crazy because when I press my sternum, it still hurts there. Like, and this is 2013. It still is like tender there." Because it's like, you know, the body keeps a score, you know? So like it remembers that.
Do you know what myofascial release is?
Yeah.
As a therapy? Like
Yeah.
I see someone around here, but I've been doing myofascial regularly since I was wounded, since I got back from the hospital.
Has that helped?
Oh, yeah. I would say I've had experiences on the table doing that stuff with 2 different practitioners that are like full-on psychedelic transcendental experiences that if someone hasn't done a psychedelic, that they're like, it's definitely like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like low grade if you've done DMT, but like as far as profound changes that occur, like I've had it where like I was like born on the table before, where I just didn't exist, and I was like, I was like, what in the fuck? Like her hands were on my chest, like spreading for like 5 minutes, but like that little area, like I know the woman who works on me, who you're like, if you saw her, you'd be like, how's she gonna help me? Because the size you
little.
are, yeah, she's little, but like. It's more about like taking tissue and then distracting it some way and just holding it for a period of time.
Manipulating.
Yeah, and then
tissue,
she's
yeah.
like feeling the energy of that as well, and then just going where you need it to. But like knowing that happened, like knowing that's a trauma, and the result of that is like a symptom of it.
Yeah.
And so she goes and works on those things, and then like over time.
I have a guy that I've been working with.
Okay,
since
has he done that?
Oh yeah. He
Okay.
does and when you talk
Does
about,
he do myofascial or is it like massage?
It's all. I call him my body worker because he just fucking works
hands-on,
the
right?
body.
Yeah.
Like he just puts your body and manipulates it
Cool.
in ways. There's stretching involved,
Yeah.
but like a lot of it is like him just like pushing energy out of areas.
Okay.
Like fucking opening areas up.
Yeah.
And getting blood flow into areas. And there's been times where he's doing like working on my neck, especially my neck, where he's
Especially
like
for
working on my
you,
neck, where
dude.
I like fucking my eyes are like fucking rolling in the back of my head. His name's Adam Sturr. He's the one that like even introduced me to like the microdosing, like that you should be fucking doing this shit to play.
Yeah.
You know, he's like a mad scientist.
You
dude.
probably would on a regular basis like traction on your spine,
Oh,
like
yeah.
someone just gently holding your head and just
holding
pulling
my
it
head
away
and
from your
pulling it
body.
away, dude.
Yeah.
It's like gold.
Sometimes when I'm like laying in bed, I'll just think about someone holding my wrists and then other people like pulling on my stumps to
Yeah.
like pull traction on my body. Because when I'm in my legs, because I'm for
like
everyone
crunching you
watching,
down, right?
below the knee amputee. Yeah, it's kind of like being in a knuckle push-up position, just
Yeah.
staying on your knuckles, just kind of holding that up position, just like all the time. And then over time, you're like, oh, fuck, that hurts. Like, so eventually I have to take them off and reset them, and right now they're not even on. So that's why I can.
Do you
Sit
like
up.
ice the shit out of them? And
No,
you don't ice them?
that would not feel good at all. Putting
Really?
cold on them fucking lights them up. Yeah,
Really?
lights up the
What about
nerves.
heat?
I don't put heat directly on it, but I sauna every day. But as far as
do you
like
infrared sauna or do you just regular sauna?
I have a dry right
Okay.
now. I used to have a dry plus an IR, but it was too big for the house I'm in right now. But dry. Either one I think is fine. I don't have a preference.
Yeah,
I like dry probably more because you have the water option with the rocks. That's a pretty cool option.
So you get that steam.
Yeah,
like a
because
little
like
bit
for
of
someone
steam.
like you, you should get dry at your next place because of what I'm about to say. Because then if you're just like, okay, I did my 20 minutes, cool, but can I fucking make this insane for a second? Yes. And you pour the whole thing on, and you're just like, you can't even breathe through your nose because it's too hot.
Yeah.
And you just fucking, it's weird because like
burns.
there's like 20 seconds of like insanity, and then you just get adapted to it. But you would like that. Because
It's
you do
funny 'cause
I don't
use
do
this-
cold
I
stuff.
do the same concept with the cold.
Yeah, you do the cold.
Like I get in I do it every morning.
But you can torture yourself in the sauna. Don't do it the whole time because that's stupid. But
Yeah.
like,
well, that gives you that's an endorphin thing, right? And
you can definitely tell that it's different than just sitting in the sauna. Like I'm already sweating and have been sweating for 10 minutes or so. You know, I think I sweat probably like 3 minutes after I get in there because I do it every day.
Yeah.
So, but I've been sweating the whole time, and then sometimes at the end, if it depends on where I'm at with like training. I wouldn't call it what I'm doing training, but like working out and how I feel and like my sleep and stuff. If I don't want to stress myself, I won't do it. And then if I'm like, let's turn it up today, I'll fucking crank it.
see, I'll get in a cold tub before I work out
That's crazy.
because
Do you like that
I
then?
feel warmer when I get down here. Like I don't, dude. I'm weird. I don't like warming up. Like I just fucking don't like it. I want to get straight to it.
Well, what the cold thing does is it like makes you, when you're in it, you're like shunting the blood to your core to keep your core temperature high, and then when you're out and you start moving around and needing to like use your skeletal muscle, then you're like pumping blood throughout your body, and then you're like then reperfusing, because that's what happens when you go to sleep. You're supposed to get a little cold, like splash water in your face, it evaporates, you get cold, and then your body rewarms type thing. But that drop in temperature
Also-
helps sleep. But like for you, that's interesting. You must like fucking your people are from the north anyway, the northern latitudes.
Yeah.
You want to be like brushing snow in your chest while
Yeah.
you like wake up.
Well, it's fun when it snows here. Like I'll go out there and just lay in the snow.
Yeah.
It just feels good to me. You know.
Yeah.
Like it
Where'd you
feels-
grow up?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, that's
So
right.
Northeast Ohio.
Because this snow is way cooler than where you grew up.
Yeah, it's wet, cold, miserable snow. Slushy, fucking.
I've
lake
never been in
effect
that.
snow.
That sounds miserable.
This snow.
Interrupt, but something turned on that's buzzing, and I can hear it like fucking crazy.
Okay, can we just pause real quick?
Yep, we're back to record.
Cool. So like the age of agave and everything has to do with how it tastes. So like it gets that tint because they put it in barrels, so it's barrel aged, and
That's good.
yeah, it's good stuff, man. Don Julio Real, I'm a big fan of it.
Don Julio. I just watched Narcos.
It's a really good show.
I didn't bother with the third season, even though I love,
Why not?
because I'm not really into shows, and I like Pablo. That was a compelling character, and the dude
Yeah.
that played him did an amazing job. And they stretched. It was too long already for me.
Yeah,
I was like, this story, I see what they're doing because they have 2 seasons for all this, but they need to do this in like 12 to 15 episodes total.
Yeah.
And then just that be it. But I read a book about that, like, because there were some Delta operators that were working with the flyovers that were pulling the ISR on that. They were starting to get their little fingers in things around the world.
yeah.
And
manipulation
then
that
what's
goes on.
interesting is that there's a whole book on this, but like JSOC and the CIA kind of like crossed streams with their responsibilities after 9/11, where CIA is supposed to be running human intelligence and like networking stuff, and JSOC was supposed to be shooting and killing. They both started doing the other one's thing
Really?
to try and be autonomous. Yeah. So there's like that component to over here, and then I know guys that have been similar injuries to me that were doing this stuff for them over there.
Yeah.
Type thing.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So, all right, so we were talking about injuries.
This will tie in. So you were where you left off was the seizure.
Yeah, so I had that seizure, and I woke up in the hospital 36 hours later.
Do you remember?
I remember one little
anything like
in
of your
between?
experience in between?
yeah. So one time I remember ripping a breathing tube out of my throat, and that hurt. That fucking hurt.
That's why they tied my hands down.
Yeah. Well, that's how when I woke up the next time, I was strapped to the
All
fucking
that's
bed.
trauma, dude.
Yeah.
I have real significant stuff because the first time I woke up after when I finally was out and didn't wake up for any of my surgery, I was doing shit in my surgery, like fighting the whole time. And people would message me on Instagram like months later and be like, "Yo, this is what I remember from that night."
Yeah.
Like the dude was putting an A-line in me. Here's a scar. And then I like threw him up on the table or something and like threw him off of me.
Oh, dude, it's
I was just
fucking
like raging
crazy because I did the same thing.
Yeah, because you're raging.
I was throwing nurses. I was ripping IVs out of my arm.
Because
I broke the ICU
fucking
bed.
fighting to survive.
Yeah, I broke the fucking ICU bed. Like snapped the fucking thing. Like it was bad. And when I woke up, when I like
Pulling the tube out though, were you like?
My throat was fucked up for like a couple. I still sometimes you hear it like it gives me like a little hoarse in my throat, but it gets scratchy like right here. Because it fucking like I didn't get it all the way out. Like they said, I just fucking was like, and that's what I remember is like waking up.
There's a bubble. Do you know what it looks like? There's a bubble of air or water. The water, if you're going in elevation in a helicopter, but you put the tube down and then you fill. There's a bubble that inflates so that like if liquid goes down when you're unconscious, it's not going to go into your trachea, into your lungs. So there's like a bubble, and if you try and pull it out, the bubble goes. And it like hits on you, and if you pull it through your vocal cords and then the larynx and stuff, it fucks all that up.
Yeah.
So any blunt trauma in that area hurts.
Yeah.
And that's
well,
what
I think that's
doing.
what like kind of brought me to like
Well,
woke me up a little bit. Well, they said they were sticking me with tranquilizers, and I was just getting more angry.
Right. Assumption. You need a large dose of whatever you're having in order for whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
To have the effect of something.
Yeah.
So same thing with me, but you're also like a large dude. So you got light. The drugs, you got light, so you weren't unconscious anymore, and you became conscious. And then you're not supposed to have a fucking ET tube in to someone who is conscious because it triggers the gag reflex, and that'll wake you up. That's what happened to me. I couldn't see mine, but like you're coming out of that because the drugs are too low.
Yeah.
And then they often don't know that because they don't know that you're going to be too light until you're too light type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I would, because you don't ever be like, well, this guy's fucking big, so give him more. I mean, I do that on the ground with ketamine, but like for you, I give you like 150 mgs of ketamine. Like I would just give that to you right away if you were like hurt on my team. But no one will be that big though. But like a 240-pound guy, I should get at least 100 mgs of ketamine. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. I got 150.
150
Wasn't enough.
Still wasn't enough.
No. I got 100.
Holy shit.
100 IM somewhere, and then 50 IV. I pulled that out, and then I got an IO.
What's an IO?
Interosseous bone.
Oh, okay.
Anything you push IV, you can push IO, and I can put an IO in like on anybody in this room. Excuse me. In like fucking 5 seconds if I have it out. It's like a little plastic hub that might be like an inch long. This looks like a sewing thing, and there's a big ass needle because that needle will penetrate through the cortex. So then the end of the needle's in the marrow.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull the video.
There's an ad
Of
on
what?
it.
Of the process?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Lane's a fucking firefighter and a medic too. So
Okay.
I don't mean to brag.
You guys do IOs?
They just gave us permission to do it with
Nice.
zero training. It's pretty cool.
Dude, it's super easy. I can show you how to fucking do it right now on a humeral head or a tibial head.
But I just want to show him. So the first time I saw this happen,
I don't use the drill.
I wish I had seen my eyes because my jaw literally was hanging down. And I was like,
Just because of how easy it is?
Well, no, just like you're drilling into somebody's leg and you see
It's
bone come out.
super easier. It's way easier than you think.
Ooh.
So when you can't get an IV, you can just do this or like this.
Yeah, you pull that out, and now that is a port right there.
And
Where she's securing the sterility of that, and now she's flushing it. Or you would pull like marrow through there to make sure that you have access, kind of like in a vein.
Yeah.
You kind of like pull back a
Pull
little bit,
some
and if you
blood
have
out.
blood, then you're like, okay, now they're putting an opsite over it to secure it, so that's like nothing will get in the hole of it, and then that's sterile, and then you can put sterile IV tubing or whatever the fuck on it, and you can push drugs in that.
Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, so
But
you
I
that
had
just
no
drill,
idea
You,
that
you
drill,
just took up the
that
IV
drill-
bag, and then you can put all the drugs and stuff through it. You just got to put a little
So
bit
they
more
did that to
pressure
you in the
behind it.
shoulder.
Yes, because my legs were fucked up. But I don't carry that drill. You don't. The drill's super
So how do
easy.
you get
So
it in?
firefighter, like you do it on the tibial head, because the tibial, like on the flat part of the tibia, like coming down. I mean, where they're doing it, they're doing it actually kind of inferior, aka low towards the foot, lower than I would need to, because you can feel on. I could palpate all of you and show you real quick. Then I can show you where your crike is too. You need to crike yourself, but which would be fucking gnarly as shit. I've never even IV'd myself, but anyway, that right there, I wouldn't carry the drill because it weighs something.
Yeah.
It weighs like it's heavier than 2 of your phones.
Right.
So like I'm an assaulter. It's like I don't fucking want that.
Yeah.
So
You don't want
I learned how to
chest
hand
A
crank
light.
those.
How do you do that?
The way that she's do it with her hands, I do it like that, and I just use my hands.
You just push it in there?
It's not as hard as you think.
Really?
You could definitely do it, and everybody in the room could definitely learn how to do it too. It doesn't take like strength. You just go. It's got a needle, man. It's like fucking It's like a 14 gauge at least, 16, 18 or something, or 14, 12, 10 gauge. Sorry, I went the wrong way. And then, but like, it just goes dunk. It just like clunks if you do it on the right spot. So you have to know anatomy, but like the spot on the tibia is like the middle of the knee. It's super easy. It's like 2 inches down from the patella.
Oh, okay.
Most of trauma medicine is super easy. I could teach you how to do shit too. Like I can put tourniquets, like simple like life-saving stuff. I can teach. That's super easy.
I think it's important for people to know that stuff, because what if something
It is.
happens? You know, what like you would want to know that if you
I've
got in a
responded
car
to
wreck
car
and your
wrecks.
kid needed a fight. You know, like
I've responded to car wrecks.
I think about that all the time. It fucking terrifies
Would
me.
anybody want their loved one to have died because no one knew how to stop a bleed? You know how
Exactly.
easy it is to stop a bleed? As long as it's not inside of you. And if it is, I might be able to help if it's in your belly, because I can go in there and then pull your intestines out and find hemostats and like fucking
Dude.
clamp it off,
It'd be fucking wild.
which I've seen happen.
Awake?
Someone's intestines were out to their knees.
Awake?
Were they awake? No, they were dead probably when I got to them.
Yeah.
But that was in combat. So I think they passed pretty quickly, but they had a lot of gnarly injuries like open femur fracture. But I didn't do the whole hemostat thing on that situation because I had somebody else work on that spot. But
God, dude.
we lost that
What
patient.
I can't imagine walking up on that.
It was
can't
crazy
imagine
because we were exfilling from mission, and a vehicle rolled over, and it went down like a ravine, like 40 feet or something, 50 feet.
Which is fucking.
It rolled
far.
like multiple times, and there were 8 people in it. And there were 3 Green Berets in the back, and none of them got seriously wounded. Although I think one of them has a shoulder injury. Somebody fell on him, so if he sees this, he'll laugh. But somebody died, and then luckily nobody else did. But
for 8 people.
I was
to be
like
in
2
there and only
vehicles
one person
back,
dies
and
is
I
incredible.
threw my med bag out because I was riding in the back of the vehicle, and then I had somebody drive me up on a razor, like a Polaris razor, and then I got to him, and I think I had like an agonal carotid pulse, meaning that it was just kind of like an agonal breath is like a gasp that happens upon death. Like if you've ever shot an animal and they've had like moving or something afterwards, or like or like bodily noises, it's kind of like that.
It's just like that air.
But this is I'm
the
talking
last little bit of air.
That's
that-
agonal gasping or breathing, but I'm talking about carotid. Like I think I had some feathery like the last beat type thing. But we worked on him until we got him to the bird. But I cracked him and double needle D'd him. And
Jesus.
you know what needle D's are?
No.
It's how you treat a tension pneumothorax, which is a sucking chest wound.
Okay.
So you
Explain
have
that really quick, like what the
what is
what
that?
the tension pneumothorax is, because it's just your
Dude, I'm like,
Man, I wish I
your
had a
internal
whiteboard.
cavities.
my mind is just blown right
If I had a whiteboard, then I could, because I would teach this in a class. But like, you got a box, thorax. You got balloons in it, lungs. There's an isolated system between those two things. There's not holes between them. There's not holes between the box and the world, the atmosphere, and there's not holes between the lungs and the box. If holes get in there, it gets complicated.
Yeah.
That's sucking chest wound. Because then the way you normally breathe is that your diaphragm moves down and creates space and volume increases in order to allow like the atmospheric pressure, creates like a negative vacuum for air to come in. And you have inspiration muscles too. So if you put a hole in that system, like the whole point of it is like a pressure gradient going back and forth between atmospheric pressure out here in Earth and inside your body. And now there's a hole articulating with that. And so air comes in that hole and creates pressure, and then the balloons can't blow up. And so you can take a needle and go into the box right here, second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, or the secondary site is fourth or fifth intercostal space, mid-axillary line, basically where the lat
So
comes
is that
down.
like right by the? Is that right below the clavicle?
I can show you an easy way to do it. It's easier to do on someone else, but it's you take the midpoint between where your AC joint is that you probably have sprained in your career,
Oh yeah, separated them.
and probably to your clavicle, which probably has lots of injuries too. But like the midpoint between those, and you drop it down to second intercostal space. But on
Yeah,
you,
you
I
can
would just
feel
be like boom, and I would like palpate, and then I'd find the ribs, and then I'd have the 14 gauge needle out, and then I'd find the space between them and just puncture through it.
Oh, this is they did this on what's that movie?
I have a picture of it. I should
They
have
did
sent
this in
to
a
Lane.
movie where they're getting the gold. There, it's
Oh, dude,
Iraqi
yes.
freedom.
They use a trip. They use a three-way stopcock
Yeah.
on the end of it because you can turn it and it goes. Tsh. George Clooney's in
George
it. Three
Clooney.
Kings.
Yeah, Three Kings.
Yes.
Have you seen it? Yeah.
It's a famous scene that
Great
is
movie.
referenced when we're in class,
Yeah.
and I haven't watched that movie since I went through all that. But yes, that's a needle D. I'd have to see it to see if it's all like accurate. But they have a stopcock on it, so which is not necessary, but it's like it's just funny because it's like
'Cause it's
that's
to turn
old school
the valve.
medicine stuff, like combat medics did that in the 90s type thing when
That's
we look at
wild.
that. But we just take a regular 14 gauge, go in, and you pull the catheter out because there's catheters because needles like for IVs, you're like putting a catheter in to like be able to push something into that bloodstream.
Yeah.
But this catheter is a plastic tube, so you pull the needle out. Sorry, I think I said it backwards, and then it goes,
And
and
it's-
then
you
that
can
pressure goes back to normal. There's still a hole, and then you can put a chest seal over it because anything between your neck and your belly button gets a chest seal when you're doing that portion of your
Why?
mark.
Why is that?
Because if something hits in there, it can ricochet and then cause a breathing issue.
Oh,
So if something comes in basically from here and goes down, then now my box has a hole in it. So anything between neck and belly button, where my lungs are and my box is, will get a chest seal to cover that hole.
okay.
Because if there's air coming in, then all that problem can happen that I just described. And then what can add to that is blood in there. So you can have a hemothorax, blood, a pneumo, air, thorax, pneumo in the thorax, air in the thorax. You can have a tension pneumothorax and a tension hemo, and then you can have a pneumohemo.
Yeah.
And I had a dog that had a pneumohemo, and I needle deed her in that friend that you saw the picture of earlier.
Yeah.
I needle deed her in his vehicle, driving her to emergency at like 9 p.m. because she got gored by a deer
Really?
in Colorado. Yeah. She got attacked by
bucks, man.
She got attacked by a mule deer. It was a muley. Fucking ripped her up. She had multiple penetrated like through her thorax, not just like lacerations. Anyway, needle deed her. She's alive.
You saved her.
She's alive. Yeah.
Wow.
But I needle deed her. So
But
I
if you
needle-
didn't know how to do that, then like
It's very easy to do, but I mean, I would have never. You have to get that training to ever even think to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's super easy to do, and like she knew immediately. Oh, I can fucking breathe better because, I mean, I have a friend in Iraq. His friend, they got done clearing through an objective, and they're at their LOA, limit of advance, and he's like, "Fuck, I'm like out of shape." He had just gotten into country. He's like, maybe I just need to get in shape for out here. And then like someone's like, "Hey man, you don't look so good. Let me look at you." And you're like, "Hey, you've been shot in the chest." He didn't know the whole time, but like needle D is like, and then you immediately feel better.
he didn't know
Because-
he was shot in the chest.
Right. He was. I mean, did you know you were hurt until after the game? Sometimes.
No. Yeah. But I mean, come on. That's
mean,
wild.
I mean, I don't know. I've had a friend get shot. It was a ricochet under a Mat V. A Mat V is a big truck, and it hit him in his back plate, and it's like this far from the edge of his plate, and he didn't even know he got shot. He was like, "Oh, I pulled my back." He thought he was like, "Oh fuck,"
Something bit me.
just like limping the rest of the day. He's like, "Oh god damn it!" Like, but he got shot.
And
He
he
didn't
didn't
know
even know.
until they were like looked at his. Someone was like, "You should look at your plates." And it was like, "There's around it."
Damn.
Or at least a mark from around. I don't know if
I mean,
it was
there's
around was in it.
That's just fucking crazy. Like, what? Talk about like.
There's like close calls that are stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think about close calls you may have had just from injuries in your job or in the just playing, right?
Oh,
Anytime in football,
dude,
you probably
I dislocated my elbow one time. I was getting off the ground. Like this, and my nose guard, who's 330 pounds, tries to jump over me, and his shin hit me right here.
during the play.
Yeah. After the play was over. Play was dead.
Oh,
I was just getting off the ground.
fucking
I was just like standing up and had all my weight
not
on there.
flight of foot.
Dude, and he hit me here, and it felt like somebody took a baseball bat and just was like, "Bow!"
But did it go
And
that way?
It went all the way to the ground, subluxed completely to the ground. And I rolled over.
You saw it?
And I
That's
I
the
looked
worst-
at it.
is
I
that the
looked
worst
at
part?
it, and my elbow was like in here, and like my elbow was in here, and I was
Sucks.
like, and I grabbed my arm, and I went to I was like pulling on it, and I could just feel bone grinded on bone.
Yeah. That's
And
that's
the
called
tendon felt like all weird, and I was like, that was in 2019, and I was like, oh no, and I couldn't get it to go back in because I dislocated the right one before, but I got it to go back in right away. Like I just was like, "Oh," and it just like slipped back in. This one wouldn't go back in.
I remember like what the procedure is for that one. I know how to do like hips and shoulders.
They laid me on a table.
Yeah.
They tried to
Face
do.
down?
They came out to the field and tried to get it, and I said, "Get me off the field. I'm gonna throw up,"
Yeah.
because it was hurting so bad.
Yeah.
And they took me inside and laid me on a table face down and let my arm hang, and they just like
Yeah.
hung on it. They
Yeah,
just
yeah.
put weight on it basically.
Yeah.
And it like finally was like, and it sucked
That's
right back
interesting.
up into socket.
I've seen that one for a posterior shoulder, but like sometimes they'll take like a 2.5 or 5 pound plate and like strap it to the person's hand. So that's what they were doing to you, is just pulling it down.
Yeah, they were just pulling on
Dude,
it.
that just seeing that shit, I didn't see my legs when I got blown up. That would fuck with me.
I
Does
bet
that
it
fuck
would.
with you? Like, do you ever have anything like?
Yeah, like my elbows from being dislocated. Because one time I was posted I posted off another offensive lineman, and my middle linebacker came and just like bow, and it was like, and I was like, I did a front flip, like I front flipped out of it somehow, like
To try to take the force.
yeah,
off of it?
like I
Did
felt
that
it.
dislocate though?
Yeah,
Okay.
it did sublux, complete sublux, but I got it to go back in. I just played the rest of the game, but we X-rayed it afterwards, and like it chipped the bone coming out, so like there's bone floating around in there and shit. So I got really bad crepsis in there, and same with this one. And I'll like sometimes I'll just be laying there, and my arms will go like it'll just do this. You know,
That's
like,
probably just a nervous system
Yeah.
hypervigilance thing from everything else, though.
yeah.
'Cause-
And I did stem cells in both of them too.
Oh, cool.
So
Nice.
like, and that really helped.
Yeah.
The stem cells really helped. I actually avoided surgery on this one.
Nice.
I'd had to do surgery over here because the ulnar nerve. I couldn't open a door handle.
Oh.
Because the ulnar nerve was so damaged.
Yeah. I had issues. Man, what the fuck happened? I had issues with like here. I couldn't feel this for a while.
Yeah.
But I think that was more from medical stuff instead of like the blast, because I think they like infiltrated this arm multiple times because I was just
It was nerve issue.
I was so
it was a
stuck
nerve
up.
issue.
But like,
Probably from being poked in there and the nerves had to regrow.
yeah, body's crazy, dude. But the stem cells, that's what I wish we had more of.
I know, dude. I
Because-
really do. Insurance
Especially if
won't
they're gonna
cover
add-
anything. You have to
Right.
pay out of pocket. But it, like,
Did you?
I
have to
did it on
go
my
out
neck.
did you have to go out of country?
No.
Okay.
I was able to do it right here in Vail at the Stedman Clinic.
Oh,
They
okay.
pull it from your hip.
Oh.
And spin it. So it's
Okay, that's why they can do it here.
Yeah,
so like,
it's different. A lot of people get PRP, and this is way
Right,
different.
right.
Like these are
That's
from
the-
this is from your marrow. They
Right.
spin your marrow,
That'd
pull
be
the stem
cool.
cells, and they inject them. And they have like the problem, I guess, was like they didn't have the science on how many actual billions of cells they were getting. Like they couldn't keep count, so they didn't know how many good ones they were putting in or how many. But now they have the science kind of figured out. Here in America, they do. You know,
Yeah.
because for a while you had to leave the country to get it done.
well, because there's other technologies, and the reason I know about it, because I don't really listen to Rogan anymore. Before I got hurt, he had, I think, Mel Gibson on, and they went overseas because his dad was like in his 90s or some shit, and fell and broke his hip, and like, you're gonna die when you're 90 and you break your hip. Usually,
Yeah.
you're usually dead in the next year. But they got like stem cells injected. I think it was his hip or shoulder or some shit. But his dad lived another like 5 years. But they
Yeah.
went overseas, and you can get mesenchymal stem cells, which is
Is that
from the
umbilical cord?
from the
Umbilical cord, right? Placenta.
from the placenta,
Yeah.
placental stuff. And I think that is not allowed here, which is the issue, because those cells can then be formed into like a lot of different ones, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not an expert on this. But they went overseas to get stuff that isn't legally allowed here, and
Germany, probably.
South America,
South America,
also,
yeah,
but
Costa
like
Rica.
I'm sure it's all over. But like there are even more stem cell options that are probably really good for this, and
yeah,
I don't really know much about it because
I would like to figure that out. You know, there's just so many different, like my body, like it's coming around and things are getting better, but the NFL stops covering us after 5 years.
Sweet.
So after 5 years, when things really start to go downhill for me, we'll see. But I'm doing everything I can to counteract that. You know, I'm taking all the supplements I should be taking, the peptides and stuff like that. When it comes to, let's go back to the neck injury. So when I came out of the hospital, I tried to go back to practice because I just was like,
of course,
I was like,
of course you did.
And I'd lost like 30 pounds. I was like 255 pounds. I was already losing weight before that, so it was like I didn't have much to lose. I was like a 10 to 11% body fat. Like I looked weird at 255. I just looked weird. Like my head looks real big. I look skinny. And I go to practice and I had another seizure. I started to like seize out again, and I kind of snapped out of it. And like they just sent me home. So I went home, and for like months I was just at home. And that's when I started working
by yourself?
Then I was here by myself. I had a friend here, but he was like, you know, what the fuck he's doing. You know, I was by myself though.
Yeah.
Because he'd be out doing his own thing. But anyways,
that was the sophomore year.
that was the second year in the league. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're basically on the edge the rest of the season, or what?
No, we went to a Super Bowl and I didn't get to play in it, and I was pissed.
Right. So I mean, were you like not having a good time in life? Is what I'm getting at.
Not
with
having
that
a good
injury?
time at all. No, I was fucking doing. I was being
Because
really,
you also had all those fucking crazy dreams and shit.
Yeah, I was being very reckless. Like I was like having nights of like I'd just go out and do some coke and fucking hang out with a bunch of, you know, undesirables.
Yeah. Vagrants.
Yeah, and just having, you know, I'd have like a bunch of people. I was having pajama jams at my house and shit. So I just have a bunch of girls in lingerie running around the house, and just like fucking, I was just like a zombie. Like it wasn't even like I'd be there and they'd be talking to me, and I'm just like not even there.
It's like
it was
just
weird.
to have anything else going on other than the thing that is like causing the pain.
Yeah, because it was like
But
crippling
also
pain.
that's like not just that issue, it's all of it that ever happened before too.
Yeah, so it's
you know
all
what I mean?
yeah, all of the trauma is like
Yeah.
it's all like I'm having a hard time dealing with it, and I don't have the outlet. So I was like partying a little too much. So I was like, I got to make a change, man. I met that guy Adam Stir, and he was like, he started working on me, doing all this manipulation, and then I started doing yoga to connect my mind and my body again and create that connection that was lost because I didn't feel like myself. I didn't even know who I was. I was just like,
So
lost.
have you read Peter Levine's Waking the Tiger? You
No.
read The Bread, the Body Keeps a Score.
I did read that, yeah.
Peter Levine's is less technical because that's all like the research of all these different methods. But Peter Levine's just like a somatic trauma guy. And you were just saying something about, what were you just saying about your body?
Connecting my mind and my body.
Right. So to soothe the body, to allow you to like even have a cognitive thought about a trauma, you like one of the things he has people do in the beginning of a session if they're like early on seeing him, he calls it VU, but this is also Kundalini yoga. But he would have him do a noise, VU,
Yeah.
and you do like 10 of those. But what you're doing is
We do a lot of that in yoga, yeah.
when you exhale longer than you inhale, you're basically stimulating you're kind of like down regulating the parasympathetic nervous system. Excuse me, you're down regulating the sympathetic nervous system, the fight and flight, through your vagal nerve, and you're allowing that rest and digest and sex part to come up and kind of like relax part to come up. So the long exhale and then actually making a noise is causing a vibration, which is good for your gut. And your gut, these numbers are going to be ballpark, but somewhere around like 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut, and then 85% of dopamine or something like that is made in your gut. So vibrating the gut stimulates your gut for good things, and then the gut is also where all the immune system and all it's tied in with the neuroendocrine function.
Yeah.
Because of some of the neurotransmitters are fucking in the gut, but then it influences the immune system and shit. So
That's when I started taking maca root.
what's that?
It's
I
I
don't
know
know.
my yoga instructor.
I'd have to look at it.
Her name
I
was
haven't heard
Nancy. She was awesome. She I wish she ended up moving away. She had to move to Texas, but she was like, I still stay in touch with her because she
Yeah.
like helped change my life, you know. But she had me take this maca root, and it helps.
Oh, macaroon. I thought you said
Yeah.
macaroon.
No,
Like
like
a-
a macaroon.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was delicious. So. But no, it was maca root, and she's the one that got me on that, and then she also got me on collagen peptides. So those two
you
things.
definitely need to have. You probably need 40 grams of collagen a day.
I take 2 scoops in the morning, 2 big
So
scoops.
that's 20 grams usually.
Yeah. So,
Usually they're 10-gram scoops, if depending on what kind you have. But
I forget what it's called.
but you're a big man. But you should just load up on collagen for like 5 years. You should like macro dose it every day.
I do. I mean, I take it every day, and I can tell when I don't have it. My gut's
Really?
all screwed up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking about the rest of you. I didn't even think about your gut.
Yeah.
That's a good
It
point.
messes with it helps.
Do you have a probiotic, or do you like fermented foods and stuff like that?
So my wife loves to juice celery. So just straight celery juice, and that's and it's like, for some reason when I do that, I feel so good.
Yeah.
Like it helps me a lot. But I don't know. I just I do need to take more probiotics. But I just try to eat, like, to me, as long as I'm eating greens, like as long as I'm eating vegetables, like I feel like I have my digestive system is like working the way it needs to work.
Yeah.
Like, because most people are carrying like 15 pounds of undigested food, like
In their body?
yeah.
That was gross.
Yeah, like that's disgusting.
That's a turd.
So like to me,
That's like a forearm turd.
yeah. Well, it's funny because even when I'm hunting, like I'm at a hunt camp,
Mm-hmm.
people are always like, "Dude, every time we have a snack, you shit," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I have a healthy digestive system."
That's called a haustral contraction. That's what puppies and babies do. But when you put food in your stomach, so basically it's a tunnel, right? And if you're putting if there's a new train coming in the tunnel and there's still a
Something's
train in the
gotta
tunnel,
leave.
yeah, the old train's got to leave. So
Yeah.
when you eat, it immediately does that.
Yeah,
But that's how you also train puppies to not shit in the side, because they shit after they eat. So when they eat, they put them outside.
yeah.
Haustral
That
contraction.
makes sense. Is it good? Is that a good thing?
It helps you
healthy?
train them, but like it's not good or bad. I mean, it's normal.
Yeah, I feel like it's normal. Like,
Yeah.
to me,
But
to
then
me, when a guy
circadian
does that,
rhythm-
when I see a guy at camp not shit for 3 days, I'm like, dude, how the fuck are you eating?
That guy's not good.
Yeah, there's no way that you're good.
But I'm sure there's all kinds of ups and downs of health on a football team, though, of like guys who are like, oh, I've had to learn how to do this, and then guys who are not an adult, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got to think you're dealing with it was probably the same way in the military. You're dealing with a 22-year-old, and then you're
Green
dealing with
Berets
a
are a little different,
33-year-old. So you have that
Yeah,
wide range
yeah.
of guys in the same room.
Yeah.
And you have to like manage those guys, right? And some guys that are young, they're coming from college where they just like told you everything to do and how to do it and when to do it. And then you get to the NFL and it's like, hey, you're a fucking pro, dude. Like, you figure out what you're gonna eat, when you're gonna eat it, and how you're gonna like manage. Like, you shit on your own time. You do this and that. They're like, you're not leaving a meeting to go take a shit. So like, even my shits were like scheduled out and planned out. It's funny because my wife was always like, you spend a lot of time on the toilet, and I'm like, yeah.
Do you have a bidet?
No, but I'm working on it.
I'm gonna influence you to get a bidet then.
I love them. Which company do you use?
It's a Japanese one. A charity actually got it for me, but
I know which one you're talking about. So I was at Kid Rock's house and he has them. And they're fucking
that's a funny
awesome.
sentence,
Yeah.
by the way. Was there an American flag above it?
He has them in every toilet.
But like, I'm curious to know which ones he has,
It warms
like
your
some
ass.
of them, yes,
warms you up first and
it has a warm seat.
Blow dryer.
It has a warm, but the water, the technology of how it warms the water will dictate the level of irritation you have with it, because you can just have, but some of them need power. So then you have to get like an outlet put in or something.
Well, that's what he told me. He said in my new Bob told isn't Bob.
Put
So
an
Bob
outlet
said
and all
put
that.
an outlet by your
Yep.
toilets.
Yes,
And I said, why? He's like, it's for these bidets. He's like, you want the bidet, trust me. And I
you
was
will.
like-
It's totally worth it.
and I did, and I love them. Like,
I would never live without it now.
yeah.
Unless I had to, without like electricity or something. But like,
Yeah, it's
I don't
a
have-
game changer.
if you're just like, there's shit on my arm right now, and I just go,
It's not.
and then I'm like, all right, hey, will you kiss that? Hey, babe, will you kiss that right there? No. But in my bidet, there's a little guy in there, and he comes out, and he has a pressure washer, and he spends 5 minutes, if I let him, which I do,
Oh yeah, Clean
5
that
minutes
thing.
until he automatically goes away. But 5 minutes of that thing, and you can turn it on and go, wah, wah, and he sprays me down. And then another like guy comes in, and he goes, and he blow dries it with warm air.
Dude, it's
Why
so
would you not
nice.
like? Why would you not want that?
It's so nice, and I'm trying to remember the name of the company.
I think mine starts with a T. But
It's like
not,
Toto or something like
Toto
that.
might be mine.
Why
might
does it
be-
have to be a guy? That's just
He's just because he's got overall. He's there to work.
Let me see. I'm gonna look it
He's
up.
got
on my phone.
overalls
I know
on?
I shouldn't be pulling my phone out, but I'm gonna pull it out. Look, Toto.
You can have Jamie pull that up.
Yeah, Jamie.
When I was on Rogan's podcast, is Jamie still there?
Yeah.
One of the guys that was in Sturgill's band's name is Bobby. I'm friends with. He's an amazing musician who has some stuff come out. You might like it, especially if you're microdosing. But Bobby thought it was hilarious that we could just tell Jamie to pull things up. So we had a checklist between us, and it was like Justin and Bobby, and we were just trying to see who could pull as many jokes of like telling him to look something up while we were there. We'd be like, "Oh yeah, we should look that up. Hey Jamie, look that up." We'd be like, all right, I'm the head of Bobby. So we were like doing that.
Look up the bidet companies.
That might be Toto.
The Toto.
Like
Yeah.
what I
There it
have
is,
pulled
yeah.
up,
That's what I
the
have.
top 11.
But there's like a lot of
bidets
different Totos though. So you
You
also
got to
need
get
to
the
make
right
sure
one. Listen, when you walk into the room, the toilet seat lifts up for you.
you don't have to leave that on, but yeah, that is one of the features.
It's
and it has a
insane.
light if you want it. I
a
turn all
light.
that off
I
because
think
it's a little
that's the
startling
Toto.
to me.
550.
Plus, if I go in there and I'm brushing my teeth, I don't want like to drop something in the toilet. And then also, if some of those do like pre-sprays, I don't find that it works for me, but it's supposed to spray the bowl with water so that if your shit hits that, then it's not gonna like hit dry wall.
get particles
It'll
out.
hit like wet wall so that it washes off easier. There's a little deodorizer spray, but the technology of this one is significant because it has a tank. I think that's mine.
That's
The
it,
one
dude.
it's similar to that.
That's
You
the
just got to
one.
get the right size, but it has a tank, and you just get a water hookup and electricity. You don't have to have hot water because that thing heats it up and it doesn't ever run out of hot water. Because some of them have a coil system, and then once the water will cool that coil down, then it's no longer hot. But that tank one, 5 minutes, it'll be hot the whole time. You got hot water, you got hot seat, and hot breath.
Dude, it is like the best poop you ever
Minty
took.
breath on your butt.
It's phenomenal, and I love them, and I'm gonna get them.
Anyway,
But I'm building a house right now, so I'm like waiting to. I should just
outlets.
do it.
Do
And you
outlets.
have to have the outlets.
For that, it just makes it easier because otherwise, the cheaper. If someone's looking and not going to spend the money on something like that, and they do want a bidet, like I think Tushy, like that one in the bottom, you have to put up like a warm water attachment. So you have to have like a sink next to your toilet or something.
Well, most
like
people-
you wouldn't be getting that, but like someone that's just like a
That's for like
physical. it's like it's like $30. It's like a physical dial that opens up,
Yeah,
and
but
it's
those
like
ones you got to pre-run the water.
it's like spraying like like someone ran over the fucking fire hydrant.
Yeah.
It's like spraying like that. It's like out
It's
of
not
control.
like.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about that Toto. It's like
that's
directed.
why I gave you the analogy of the guy because
Because it's like a direct, like fucking dude. I'm telling you, Lane, it'll change your life. It's unbelievable.
so
I'm gonna get a couple of them.
I don't
'cause,
know
like,
whoever's
they're
watching this. I don't know what their economic situation is, but if you're someone maybe you like hunting or something, and you grew up kind of like without a lot of fancy stuff, and you're like, and I don't know if mine costs $948, but if you were like, God damn, fucking $700, $900 for a bidet, it's fucking worth it.
It's worth it.
I promise you.
Would you guys go with the used option on that?
I mean,
You can put enough
People
bleach. This is a segue, by the way, but you can put enough bleach, which is sodium hypochlorite. If someone else uses it, I would totally get it. If you could get it
yeah.
half price, it'd be
Half
fucking
price?
a steal, dude.
be a
Put
steal.
enough bleach on it. All right, you want to hear a story
the
about
toilet
bleach?
bowl is what you don't want. Like the seat, it was like people go to the airport and sit on a toilet right after
Let me be
somebody else
clear.
just stood up.
That seat will get dirty, though. I'm just
yeah.
being clear. I'm just saying I can clean it. So bleach. This is a transition now. Sodium hypochlorite is the ingredient in bleach. And when I was in the hospital in Germany, I had wound vacs on. Have you heard of those?
No.
You haven't needed them because it's like a weird injury treatment thing. If someone has like a motorcycle rash where it's like it avulses a bunch of skin off,
Yeah.
it makes that noise too. It's like it's like inch big foam and you cut it to fit the border of the actual injury, and you take this like sticky, almost like saran wrap over it to create an airtight seal over the wound around the edges of the wound edges, and so now it's airtight, and then they cut a little slit and put this thing over, suction on that. So now it's sucking. It's called a wound vac because it's vacuuming air out of the wound, which is way more. Oh, actually, there it is. Which is more painful than it sounds or looks, and those look pretty painful. So my legs had those.
Oh.
Actually, since you're doing this, will you just look up my name? Because I'll show you what I'm talking about. And without being gory, it'll be like I think it's on the main page. It's just like the black. It's on my Instagram. Black shit over my. Got a beret on. The dude you saw a picture of.
I saw that.
He visited me because he was going into country.
Yeah, I saw that picture on your Instagram.
Those are wound vacs.
That's what those are.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, damn, what the fuck is that?
So what they would do in the so wound vacs are that. What they do is they help granulate tissue. In my case, they're like creating, before the closure of an amputation, they're creating like as clean of an environment as you can have. I had major bacterial and fungal infections, which is why I had one reason why I had those on. So it's trying to take the moisture out so that helps kill those things that depend on the moisture, the bacteria and the fungus. And then they would do this thing with Dakin's solution. And Dakin's solution is a diluted sodium hypochlorite, which we've established as bleach. And there's my puppy. It's somewhere on there if you scroll.
Is she a Bernedoodle?
She's a Bernedoodle.
I have one of those.
Nice.
You gotta click show more
But
posts.
mine, JustinLascek.com will have this picture also, but there it is.
Right there to
On the left. So they would take Dakin's solution with his IV tubing and they would infuse it into those wound vacs. So they would put bleach into my wounds.
So they're bleaching them.
Yeah. And it was
painful.
Insanely painful. Yeah, if you go to the homepage of this on the top, on the left, or click the name, I think. That buddy, he was like, hey, let's take a picture, like, let everyone know you're good type thing. Because this is just a few days after, and he took a picture of me with, like, my eyes and my hair, and he was like, oh, God. He was like, because he told me this like 2 months ago. He's like, oh, he looks fucked up. And so he's like, here, I got these. And he had his beret and his sunglasses. He's like, why don't you put these on? And that's where this picture came from, which fucking goes viral every time it's posted. Because it's kind of weird and crazy.
It's fucking crazy.
They had to see how my chest is shaved.
Yeah. Yeah. So
they came in
left side of your chest.
They came in the day before, and they were like, "Oh, so you're a paramedic over there? The lane, you're a paramedic?
Just EMT based.
EMT." But they were like, "Oh, you're an AFib," which atrial fibrillation is like not. Aren't you on? Okay, so like AFib's not good for your heart, and normally when people are an AFib, they would know, like they'd be uncomfortable and stuff. And I don't know. I had a lot of drugs, which weren't helping, but. They were like, you're an AFib, so tonight we're gonna have to shock you back into rhythm in tonight's surgery. This is the way she phrased it. I was like, so I'm like on drugs, and I would have these very coherent medical conversations about dosages, about all these things, and then I'd be like completely fucking out of it. But people would like be surprised I was awake, type thing. And she was like, so we're gonna have to shave your chest, and I was like that was it, and I was like. Yeah, fucking do whatever you got to do to save my life. Yeah, like if you got to shave my chest or like fucking what? Yeah, that's fine with me.
Shave whatever.
You trim my fingernails if you need to. Like, fuck, like, but that's what my chest is shaved. But the Dakin solution was they would let it sit in there for 5 minutes. The bleach would be in my wounds for 5 minutes,
burning,
and then they would turn the wound vacs back on, which I want to remind you are very painful to begin with.
And that would suck
the bleach out. Oh, see that tube? On the bottom left, that's sucking air out, but then when the bleach is in there, it gets put in through that and then sucked out through that.
So is that why it's all black?
The black is the sponge. It's the sponge, like it's the sponge allows you like something between the saran wrap and the wound. It's like a barrier to. It also is kind of like gauze, where it allows like platelet aggregation, some clotting and shit like that. So, but I've been in surgeries in the OR. Where you like cut the borders of that, you place it on, and someone's like, I've done it with like an old Jewish trauma surgeon in Florida. He was like so, like he was an awesome trauma surgeon. But so they would fucking infuse it. Yeah, now every time they would do it, it was so incredibly painful, and they wouldn't change my dosaging of anything. And I was eventually got a doctor to listen to me. I was like, you don't understand how painful this is. I was like, this is. By the way, they did it every 4 hours. So 6 times a day that they did.
And how long does the process last?
On ketamine, it lasts a very, very, very long time. But it's 5 minutes when it's in. Oh. But when you're on ketamine, a singular fucking noise or look at anything lasts like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can just go boom, and then you have like
Yeah.
a imprinted smear of this for like 15 minutes of your experience, and you can't move. So
You're just
pain with not enough ketamine is not cool, man. And so I convinced this one dude to give me more. I was like, and I knew dosages at that point. I was on like 100 mgs an hour for like a month, which I've done that medically twice since then. It's not for me. It's not a cool drug because of all that.
because
but-
it judges that.
Because I got it when I was injured, and I'd never been on any psychoactive substance at all until ketamine, and I've been on a lot now. But and I convinced him to give me 50 mgs slow IV push, which is just like pushing an IV. And when you get ketamine IV, it's like it's not like DMT, but the way DMT is fast, inhaling it,
Yeah.
it's almost that fast, but IV goes and it kind of like builds of whatever you're getting in because you're like, oh, I can feel that in the vein. And sometimes there's a quality in your vein of what it feels like how it makes it feel. There's certain drugs that'll make it painful and stuff. They don't really use those anymore. But when he finally gave it to me and it was like, and I couldn't see, and to make him feel better about giving me more pain, because they were always, I knew ketamine because we used it at work.
Yeah.
And I've used it, I'll tell you off camera how I use it a lot, but at work, by the way. But we're just very experienced with it, and there's no max dose. You can't kill anybody with ketamine. You can give like your 4-year-old daughter like 300 mgs of it, and she'll probably just like power down for a while and then she'll have like a weird ass time, but she's not gonna be hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not gonna kill her.
But same thing with the tryptamine psychedelics. There's no lethal dose. If
Right.
a lethal dose would be like a ridiculous amount that isn't reasonable to get in your body type thing.
Yeah.
All that being said, the ketamine was like swirling and I couldn't see, but they were worried about it, which is why they resisted so much. And I got this guy to finally give it to me, and I was like, "Hey, I'm all right. I can't see right now, but as I'm talking, I see like this mountain. There's like, and then there's like, there was like a train going around the mountain. It was like, and I was
So
like,
it would get loud. Would it get loud?
yeah, I was just like, I could just see it in my mind's eye, you know, like, but like,
Yeah.
I couldn't. My eyes were open, but I just couldn't see this,
Yeah.
and it was just in my mind's eye. And I was like, I'm all right now, like everything's fine, and I don't feel that pain. I was just watching this train, and so I write a lot of poetry, and like that, a lyric of something that I've written in like last few months was like a train coming around the bend.
Yeah.
But like, that is super. Ketamine's weird, dude.
So would it just
don't recommend, by the way, recreationally. I've never done it recreationally, but I just don't see how it would. It's not a tryptamine. It's very different.
They're doing a lot of ketamine treatments for like trauma.
Medical
patients
stuff
and
is good,
right?
Yeah, I don't think that it's better than a tryptamine-based psychedelic.
Yeah.
And I bet the science would be more favorable in the long run as we keep researching it for the tryptamine-based psychedelics.
Yeah.
As far as neurogenesis and stuff like that, but there is something to be said because an NMDA antagonist, the NMDA is the excitatory mechanism in the brain.
Yeah.
So you're going in and antagonizing that, which means you're taking the thing that excites, and you're going, settle down. And that's like, and it's doing a bunch of other shit. But generally, that's the class of drug, NMDA antagonist. And that whole like depression of the cognitive function is a part of it. And it has some probably, maybe, I don't know all the neuroscience, but there might be other excitatory measures and different like receptors and shit, but like, it's just not the same as tryptamines. And then the experience, I think, is more favorable to having like a spiritual fucking process. Like the ketamine's just weird. And if you have enough of it, you can't stay awake if you have too much of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
You can't be in control.
The studies where they put it on sheep and
When
they
they
give
call
them
it
like,
being K'd out, they call it getting K'd out.
K-hole gets to
Yeah,
the point,
K-hole
like
or
a
whatever.
person will be unresponsive, but they'll have shit going on. But then you can get to the point where the brain, it's not, but as far as we know, not bad for the brain, but it'll just go, and it'll power off, like I said, your daughter would.
Yeah.
It just powers off. It looks like it's just like minimal activity, and then it comes back on with the sheep in the study that
Okay.
came out like a couple years ago.
Back in the day in the ambulance, we would give that to combative patients just to zonk them out. Like if somebody was getting super
Just to chill
combative,
'em out.
then you'd pull that out, IM it, and literally
You probably needed it
2 seconds later they'd just be
with a benzo. when we gave it, we always gave a benzo,
benzodiazepine.
and we gave 2 mgs of Versed. So you have Valium and Versed, or
They were giving me a lot of Valium.
Versed better because it's fat soluble, so it
They
crosses
were giving
the.
me a lot of that because I was like, dude, I was having crazy panic attacks. Like where I couldn't. I felt like
Were
I was
you
having a heart attack.
in the hospital or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
Like I never had them before, and then it's just like.
Oh, did they give you benzos for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were just getting tranked.
Yep, they were just tranking me, and then they were trying to put me on antidepressants, and that's why I was so happy to find the psilocybin because it just like fixed it all. It didn't fix it, but it like it helped me like cope with the shit that was going on, you know, and helped me like understand more of what was going on. Like I could like my mind was open almost. It was like it was like closed off. When you come from like a small town, all this shit was like, oh, I'll fucking rub some dirt on it, you know?
Yeah.
Like just be tough and don't be a
You
pussy,
made,
basically.
I don't know if it was when we were on the mic or not, but you made a comment earlier about feeling things with the psychedelic substance, feeling things you maybe emotions or things you've never felt before.
So that was the DMT.
Right. And getting exposed to that, I feel like I've had that with DMT, but also psilocybin mushrooms, LSD and stuff. And that component of it is pretty cool. To experience those things when you grow up as a dude watching G.I. Joe. Did you watch G.I. Joe?
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course I did.
Because you're slightly younger than me, but when you're in the NFL, I was in the Army. So our general life kind of went like that.
Yeah.
We kind of like doing that at the same time.
Well, that was my military was my plan if I didn't make it to the NFL. That was my plan.
I'm glad you were in the NFL then.
Yeah, I mean, it was like well, I had 3 options. It was the NFL, the military, or probably prison. Because
Oh yeah, you were violent and crazy.
Very violent, yeah, and fucking stupid, and just like a loose cannon, you know. So like I needed structure,
Yeah.
or else I was like gonna do some stupid, like I would do.
Met a lot of guys like that like know fairly early on. They're like, I need the structure. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, if I don't have structure, then it's like a recipe for disaster. But yeah, you cool to talk about the DMT? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was like. I get to feel when you talk about me feeling emotions that I've never felt before, or just general feelings. So I never understood or knew what that felt like to have like a mother's love. As a boy, you want your mother to like you. That's like you're supposed to feel safe with your mom. I never felt that before, you know. So I didn't know what it felt like, and I guess you would call it unconditional love, right? I feel a version of it with my daughter. You know, you can, but
it's different because
it's different because it's like I'm the nurturer, for her. Like I'm the one.
The direction it goes is a little different.
So I try to give it.
I
give it to her, but she gives it back to me in the same way. But it's not the same way as like, no matter what I do, my mom should love me, right?
It's what you felt when you did it.
Yeah, and when I dropped in, my ancestors guided me into a room, and they were like, "Look, you got to stop using this as a crutch, and stop using this as an excuse to do this and do that. Here you go." And this like blue light just like wrapped around me, and immediately I knew that that's what it felt like. And they said, "Now you know what it feels like."
They verbalized that?
They said, "Now you know what it feels like. So quit being a bitch." That's what they said. Now you know what it feels like. Quit being a bitch and get back out there. And I was like, "Oh fuck." I was like, "Wow." And it was incredible. Then they took me to like a different room, took me to a room where I was able to pull like the movie Tron, like everything was red and green and the lights were going up and down like this in this room. And they were like, "These are your memories. You can look at any memory you want." And I went to this like red beam and I started pulling memories out. And as I'm pulling it through, I can see them. I could see the different memories.
Like a movie thing?
Yeah, like a movie,
reel or
like
something?
a reel. And it was like, when I'd get to it, it would start playing. It was so weird.
That's pretty.
It was so cool. It was so cool to me, like that I could
DMT's
do
wild, dude.
It's so cool. It opened.
I'm gonna come back and do a whole disclaimer about DMT after you say all this, but like, it's just like you could pretty much have almost anything happen.
Anything the
mindset and setting matter, and I want to hear what happened going into that. But so you were looking at memories and go.
Yeah, so I'm looking at memories, and I get to this one memory that it was a memory from I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, and it was like my mom was holding a knife to my throat. Like I can remember it as like one of my earliest memories. And
That's pretty fucking intense.
I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, "Can I cut this one out?" And they were like, "No, it serves a purpose."
dude.
And I said, okay. And I was like, and I just like,
That's like what happened to my.
You know how like
shaman.
when you pull on a seatbelt and it fucking reels back in? I just was like, swoom, and it just like zoomed back up.
Yeah,
And then
went
I
the
was
fuck
like, there,
away.
and then these were my ancestors in there.
What'd they look like?
There was no,
Okay.
I couldn't see them.
It was kind of like feeling them.
Yeah, I could just feel them. And they were like so excited to see me.
Oh, cool.
They're like, we've been waiting for a long time to connect with you. Like it was that type of thing. And I'll talk to you even about before I went into that drop. I did a meditation before I got into it. And in that meditation, I was hearing voices like, hey, we're excited for you to be, like they knew that I was coming.
Were you already in at that point? Had you already had some that day? Or is it when you?
This is before I even had any. I was just meditating.
So let's back up. Because I think if anybody's listening, I always want them with this topic, with this substance. There's only like one thing that is more powerful on Earth, and I think it's like an atomic bomb, because this can change someone's life in like fucking 5 minutes.
Oh,
That's fucking insane. So I'm interested in like the method of what was going on for you to take this substance that day.
Yeah. All right. So we had talked about EMDR, right? So when I did that EMDR, I went into a past life.
During this.
During that,
Yeah,
I went into a past life, which is.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
If someone doesn't know what EMDR is, it's basically like a left-right movement with your eyes, and it's sort of simulating like REM sleep. So it's doing something neurologically that produces a lot of weird shit, first off, but like secondly, seems to like take some of the abrasiveness of symptoms down when you're like negotiating or interacting with your trauma. And you don't normally just jump right into that shit. You're like guided towards a direction, and maybe not even the first session. I don't know how it was for you, but like sometimes not right away. You don't get into it.
Oh, it was
but,
intense, man. Like
but sometimes you can go right into it and actually get work done session one. But you're basically just left, right eye movement. And then you have something, I don't know how yours was, slightly different for everybody, but there's generally like, think about this. And you have an experience as it's like ding. It's did yours have noise? I just had a guy's finger, dude.
No, it was light. It was a light. It was just a
60-year-old man
light,
doing
and
his
then
finger.
It was a light, and then my guide was behind me.
Okay.
Kind of guiding me through. Was
it continuous or did you rounds?
It was continuous. I did this
how long?
for I don't know. It felt like
That's different.
It felt like a day.
That's different than what I did. But
it felt like a whole day. I was in there. I was exhausted when I got done.
And then that's also, I don't know how closely, if there's a difference in all that and like the old school hypnotism stuff, but you're kind of getting hypnotized as it's happening.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because
That's what it
hypnotism
feels
is
like.
doing the same thing. It has a movement.
Yeah.
And then, so are you speaking to the person as
So
you're getting it done?
she's speaking to me.
Okay. You're getting like input.
Yeah,
but you're
because
not-
she
you're
had
not really-
she had my whole timeline prior to this.
Like,
So she had me.
you guys already
I
did the
wrote
intake.
down
Yeah,
my
yeah.
whole. I did this when I went to that retreat.
Yeah. Usually you do
I had
like.
written down my whole timeline of life. So she
Yeah.
she started off the whole thing with creating a safe like the Happy Gilmore happy place, right? And for me, that place was in an air balloon, like way so far above the earth and the clouds that there was nothing around and no sound, and it was just quiet, and there was no yelling, no screaming, no like, it was just quiet and like bright, and like everything was fine.
So she returns you to that throughout?
So so she helped me go to my younger self as me. I walked up to my younger self and hugged myself.
Dude, that's crazy. I've had
And
that
I
happen too. That's
started
crazy.
I started like convulsing because
Yeah.
I was like, it was like I was having like this nervous. My nervous system was like shedding it. You know, it was like I felt like I was shedding something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens.
And I like told
you can
myself,
shake, you can have noises, you can cry,
yeah,
you can have boners.
I was crying, and I was shaking, and I couldn't control it. But I was like, whatever. I was just letting it go, and I just released it, and then I took my younger self into this air balloon up, and then it was like boom. Then so she's like, all right, now come back down. So we come down, and then she's like, now let's go here. And then like next thing I know, man, we're talking about a past life. She's like, have you heard of past lives? This and that. And
Yeah.
Trauma is passed down. And I've always had neck issues ever since I was a little kid. Like something just been like, I've been very guarded with my neck, you know? I go into this.
You don't like being tickled either.
No. I go into this, I
just want to clarify. Is this camera the one that looks at me?
Yeah.
The way that he just looked at me, like I am the same way, and the last time I played football was I was a freshman in college, and I had 3 of my teammates trying to hold me down, and I hurt all of them getting away from getting tickled. So I can't imagine what you're like.
Yeah.
as a
Well,
fucking-
I wrestled too, so like when people try to get me, it's not fun. it's
because people get hurt, right?
yeah. People end up getting hurt, and I take it too far usually.
Don't tickle them.
So don't tickle me. My wife is always like, "Why'd you do?" Because I just like a jerk reaction.
Yeah.
I just grab you, or like, I
That's the hypervigilance from the childhood trauma.
can't. Yeah, it's from all the like.
Anxious kids, what you described earlier, the fucking sheer terror of all that stuff happening from the person that's supposed to be your person to take care of you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
the EMDR,
we go into,
you had all that stuff with your childhood. With you as your child, as a child, because they're like you. Are you visualizing that the whole time? You see all that? Yeah.
Yes, you're like forgiving him and making him.
This is in EMDR, correct?
Yeah, forget. And when I say him, I'm talking to my younger self. And it goes through stages. So we go from.
Yeah.
So what we figured out that I was kind of stuck in this like trauma as a 14-year-old, because that's when I just like started coming in to become a man, and I was also living on my own, and I was kind of had no one. It was like this transition point in my life where it was like just me. Like my mom was not there. My stepdad was, not there. Didn't give he could give a shit. And it was just me. And I just was like alone.
Siblings?
I have a half brother and half sister, but they were living with my stepdad. Okay. My mom was kind of just all over the place. There was no home for me to go to, so that safe space that most kids have where it's like, hey, I'm just going to go home.
There's a lot. Yeah, you notice like
I had to figure out what couch I was going to sleep on, or what friend I was going to be able to stay with, or did I overstay my welcome? Like, are they going to have enough food because I'm hungry? Because I'm a big ass kid. Yeah. I'm starting to get really big. And I'm like, it's like all this anxiety around that, and all this shame, and all this like
your shame for like eating too.
Yeah, shame for like I'm eating
different
too
reasons,
much.
but some stuff from that.
It's like shame because like I feel bad that I have to I need to eat more. But like luckily I grew up in like a small town where like people would feed me. Like, oh, Derek's here, we're gonna feed him. They just kind of knew. Like that I wasn't getting fed the way I needed to be fed for the size that I was. So I was getting fed. But it was also like I felt like ashamed. I was like the poor kid. I was like just the poor kid that just like. I never asked for anything, so everything like I never asked for things because I don't want people to expect me to do something in return. Because I saw that as a kid, like everything that my stepmom or everything that my mom or my stepdad would do, it was like transactional. So it was like if they did something for me, they expected something in return, which is so weird.
Manipulation. Were there drugs or something involved?
Oh yeah, she's a drug. My mom was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and my stepdad was he abused steroids and he was a cokehead, and like they just. They were young and like there's no excuse for the way they treated me, but everything that happened was my fault. Like they blamed me for everything. Like they made me know at a young age that like
that's fucked.
It's fucked up, yeah. But I've gotten over that shit, and this EMDR shit was like the beginning of my like journey, and I got to go into the past life because some of the questions that I've always had is like once I cured that 14-year-old and like let him know it was all good, then we got deeper. And this is all in the same session. She couldn't believe I wanted to keep going. She's like, most people would have stopped. Like
the dude said that to me too.
Yeah, he's like, I can't. She's like, you want to keep going? I said, yeah, because I was in like full control the whole time, but I could like go into these like lucid dreams.
Yeah.
Where I'd like could get shit done because like I'm a hands-on guy. I want to get shit done. That's why just like talking to a therapist never fucking worked for me.
Also, because talking ignites all of that. Talking about something without doing the VU or without doing the EMDR, the eye thing.
Yeah.
Just talking about the trauma with an unknown person or just anybody at all, like for any reason, is not. You don't get a choice in that. So one thing that bothers me about trauma is that people don't understand that it's just a wound. It's a wound that like nobody gets a choice in.
Yeah.
And to call it a disorder is fucking stupid.
It's so.
Because it's not like there's not a problem here, because if anybody had been a kid and their fucking mom put a knife through the throat, they would have some sort of an effect that is a wound that has an effect on their nervous system and shit like that for the rest of their fucking life. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to help me stay on track there because I lost my train of thought. I'm trying to make that last point.
The trauma being a wound.
Yes, it. And it aggregates, kind of like we were talking about earlier. So
It'll
seizure
fester.
the seizure stuff is like
It festers.
you're like so I bet you kind of had some of this too. When you're like unconscious, you default into something that is reacting in a survival state to everything going on around it. And when you're like wounded, and when you're routinely wounded, whether in any way, when you're a kid, so you're regularly you're like prepared for wound. So when you're like unconscious, but then like stuff is happening to you, you're pretty much like this, and you're like fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
So when you said that you ripped the thing out, the ET tube, tried to rip it out, I woke up and they had me tied down because of all whatever I was doing before that, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I couldn't breathe because it was I was awake.
Yeah.
And it was in my throat. And I was like gagging. I threw up twice because in my head, I was like, these stupid fucking, because they were girls. I was like, these stupid fucking bitches, like medically, you need to extubate this.
Yeah.
I was like, the fact that they aren't taking out while I'm fucking awake was enraging me, dude. And I was tied down like around my chest and my hands in such like, I was using all my fucking strength and couldn't break it to pull it out because it's not good to pull it out.
No.
But I was like prepared to do it because I couldn't breathe. I was like, I'm going to fucking die again. And then that was the first.
That's crazy. What you
then
just
I
said. I'm
passed
gonna die
out.
again.
Yeah.
So you're in like ultimate survival fucking mode.
Yeah. So earlier, a long time ago, you were like, so what was going on? I'm going to flip-flop back to you and back to me here.
Yeah.
Generally, I was telling you about SF and shit like that.
Yeah.
So then in Afghanistan, we're fighting ISIS. I'm going back to that now.
Yeah.
We were on a mission, and there's a valley like this. And if we were going that way down the valley, my team is here, and the other team is here. And we're like doing this. And there's a floor. There's like, and it's a big valley, like 3,500 feet, like ridge lines or something. And there's like wadis or dry riverbeds, and they come down the sides. So it's like wadi. If you're going on the side of it, it's like wadi, 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 wadi. So you're kind of like, or you're on a trail that is like superseding the wadis.
Yeah.
So we were on a trail and kept finding IEDs. So we're like, let's get the fuck off this trail. And then there were IEDs in the wadis. And one of my dudes, Afghan, walked through a tripwire like 10 meters away from me, and it didn't detonate. And I was just like, like, this is not good.
Yeah, we shouldn't
And
be
then,
here.
so we're like, okay, let's go back on the trail. And then we'll just mark and bypass. And so you are sweeping, beep, 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 you get like a hit. You put chalk around, like chem lights if it's at night. And you like, someone might stand there. Don't step here. Like, and then between both teams, we found 11, I think, in BIPs 10, which is blow in place before I found mine. So we were going down there to fucking kill them. They had like a lot of command and control stuff. The ISIS guys down this valley, and it like dog-legged, and we were gonna go and try and hang out in the dog leg and stay the night. And we had speakers and a microphone, and I was gonna talk shit. I was going to yell at the ISIS guys and make fun of their mothers and shit like that and make them angry enough to attack. Because if they attack, then we know where they're at, and then we'll kill them.
Antagonize them.
So I knew enough Pashto where I'm like the only person on the team that could, and I spoke Arabic as my language in the course. So if anybody that would be an American that could like speak their language and really piss them off, it was me. And so I was looking forward to it. And I didn't get to do it because I got hurt. But there was a compound in the center of this valley. And you can't, with two teams, you can't go past it. It's kind of like in a house. Like if you walk past that couch and your friend is over there, and now there's a guy behind that couch, you can't shoot the guy because your friend's right there.
Yeah.
It's not safe. So we're like, okay, we got to clear this before we move past it. And so I was planning an assault. There were 2 guys in that building, by the way, and they had a tunnel that went somewhere else, and they all died later. But I had my ruck on, so like my weapon and everything. And I was like, I think I was not in charge of this element. I was like a team leader, and I was kind of like helping someone. So we were doing like a powwow. Like there's like 4 of us, and I was like, well, this is what I would do if I was going down there. I was like, approach it like this and stuff like that, and we'll set up like a support by fire. And then I was like, and stepped on it. So we were standing in an area that had been cleared, and people had walked all over it. And I stepped on it. It had snowed and melted, so there was no ground sign awareness. And for me, it was just like going up. And then I don't really remember this, but they said I was standing on my left leg was completely blown. It was exploded like
Is
eviscerated.
that the one that you stepped on it with?
Yeah, the left leg stepped on the pressure plate, and it was kind of angled. It's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of angled up at an angle, like into my gooch, but like to the right. So my left leg completely gone. I was standing on my right, and they said I was like this, for like I was standing on my leg, and I like
Trying to keep your balance?
yeah, and then I fell down, but I like fell kind of down a hill. So then when you're wearing kit and you have like mags in it and shit, like it kind of sits up when you're on your back. And then I was downhill, so like I never fucking saw my legs because the kit was like here.
Yeah.
And then, but when it happened, I like hit, and then I could see one of my friends, and all the guys that were right there, with the exception of one who was staying next to me, were all on my first trip. We're all deployed together on my first trip.
So those are your boys.
Yeah, and I had also trained all of them too, which is also important because if I didn't, I'd be super dead. But I was like, help, help. I yelled help like 10 times to one of them. And then I thought it was an RPG because I was like, there's no way that could have been a fucking IED.
You just cleared the whole area, right?
Right. I was like, this should have been cleared. I was just like, one of the moments in my life when I was like, this shouldn't be happening. And something that shouldn't be happening is happening. We'll come back to that on DMT. But, so they come to me and they put tourniquets on me, but we have like some dialogue back and forth, and then I'm like, was that an RPG? I think asking that question and hearing that, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of like was the inspiration for the near-death thing, which was a dissociation.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was just like, what? And like, this is not how it worked for me, by the way. I'm just going to tell you what happened in near-death and then try and tie it all in. It was just white, and there was just nothing. I don't know for how long or what. There wasn't like a concept of time or a concept that I was a thing or that there was a place, or there wasn't anything. It was just only white.
Yeah.
Which I perceive as consciousness. And then I was like, what the fuck is this? Like my voice, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Which is a fundamental Zen question. What is this? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this place we are in right now? Like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Is a fundamental Zen question to just sit and think about the question. And then
I know exactly what you're talking about.
and then as that was happening, it wasn't like a deliberate thought process, because in this state of mind and with psychedelics this happens, and there's only one that I think gets beyond this to the kind of what I'm talking about in this state of near death, and it's the toad. It gets you beyond the point of like thinking. But I was like almost like beyond that and then settled back into thinking, and that's where the what is this came from. And then as I kept like coming back lower, I was getting sensory input. Like there was an outgoing machine gun 240, which shoots the 7.62. So like the linked machine gun that's like kind of large. It's loud.
Yeah.
The 240 is loud. And it's like do 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 do. And so that was kind of like lightly coming back into my hearing. And I was like, it wasn't like deliberate, like, oh, there's a world and there's a place and there's things. It wasn't like shit like that, but it was like, oh, something's happening. And then I was like, and I could almost like feel them on my legs, and I was like, something's happening to me.
You feel them moving you around?
Yeah, I was like, something's happening to me. And then it was like, and I was planning the assault. And that's the order it happens for me.
Really? What the
It happens first.
Whoa. So you just have...
I remember everything, but that happens first for me.
Wow.
So what the fuck is time if you get hit really hard in the head, and you have?
Yeah.
Just because you can get hit in the head, or you can smoke something, or you can almost die, time becomes something different? Like, what the fuck?
Dude.
Like, what is memory? All of our memory is subjective. You remember all the things that happened to you, and you remember how you felt, but, like, it may not actually be 100% accurate.
Exactly.
It's more likely that it's not.
Yeah, we create the story.
Now,
in
the
our mind,
major events, like you got those, like they're locked in. Like you're good on those.
Yeah,
but
I
maybe,
can't
like,
remember. I can only remember that one piece.
But you don't
I
know,
remember like how
maybe
it got
not
to
like
that.
yeah, right. How it led.
How it got to
Right.
that. You know, like I remember like little bits and pieces of that
Yeah.
night. Like I remember getting like ragdolled to the couch. Like, but I don't know why
Yeah.
I got ragdolled on
Yeah.
the couch, and I don't know
There
why
probably
she was
wasn't.
so angry
There
with
wasn't
me.
like probably a good reason.
You know, my
anyway,
stepdad later told me like your mom held a knife to your throat one time because I was going to leave her, and I stayed because of that. And I'm like, That doesn't sound right.
So both of them are just manipulative
yeah,
fucks.
yeah.
Okay.
Like he'd made me take her clothes and like put them in a garbage bag and throw them in the yard one time. Like that's my mom, you know. Like you don't make an 11-year-old kid do that.
That's
you know,
crazy,
stuff like
dude.
that. But so you, dude, my mind is blown right now that you talked about like that. What is this?
Oh, I'm not even done with the story, by the way. There's
I know,
a lot more to the story.
I know, but I want to circle back because when I did the DMT, the first thing that happened to me is I went
It's so weird, isn't it?
into this like dark.
How'd you have it?
Smoked it, yeah,
Okay.
through a vape. So I did like a pull. I did like a 5-second
Electronic?
pull. Yeah, did like
Okay.
a 5
I haven't
second.
had one of those yet.
It was good, man. I did a 5-second pull. Next, I'm gonna go for the frog. So I did the pull for 5 seconds and then held it for like 8 seconds and then let it out. And then I put a mask over my eyes and laid back.
Here's some physiology for you. I need to double check this, but it's just inhalation physiology. I'm pretty sure, because this applies for cannabis, that 97 or even more % of what you inhale is immediately inhaled upon the time it goes in. Now, in toad ceremonies, there is a breath hold, and the reason it's beneficial is because you do the breath hold, not so much because you're absorbing more of the drug. Although I guess theoretically you might fucking be packing that last bit, but like when you inhale it, like it's in there. And so the main thing you're getting out of that is because when you do that, not if you do like breath
Well,
of
that's
fire.
what he told me. He said to pull it, and then
Because did
then
you
go,
hyperventilate
and then-
before?
yeah.
Okay, because
And
the
then
hyperventilation is a breath exercise, kind of like breath of fire, and you inhale. And if you're not on a drug and you do all that, because I do that every day, like you have like a very intense, lightheaded, like energetic feeling to your entire body.
Yeah.
But then when you do that, when you're
Tingly.
tripping on one of the most powerful, potent substances on the planet, then like that's when the benefit of it is that.
Yeah.
And that whole sensation of like it's almost like a trickling down through your body because it happens in your head because you're
It goes
holding your
all
fucking
the way
breath.
down. It goes all the way down.
Yeah.
You know, and when you talk about like what is this, that's exactly what I felt. That's why when I said I knew exactly what you're talking about because I was there, and I'm just like in this vast dark space, and there's just a little pin drop of light, like a pin, and then then I heard the voice, and that's when the guide came, and I didn't even get to go really experience anything in that first drop
because you can't.
I had to like wrap my mind around it.
They know what they have to do first before you
Yeah.
can do that. And I've had experiences like that too. And I think that you have to spend time to consider, this might make sense later, that all of that is also you. The ancestors are you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just my
but
subconscious, right?
Not in that sense, but in the sense that whatever everything else is, that's also you. So subject and object, there's no difference between them. Non-dualism.
Yeah.
Where
What does
I'm seeing,
non-dualism mean? What does that mean?
when there is no subject and object, there's no thing that separates what you are experiencing and what you are, which you have felt on psychedelics. Yes? Question mark. That whatever you can't describe when that's happening, that weird thing where like you might have your eyes closed and you might even not even know that you're a thing, or that you're like, what I'm looking at, like how, like is there any difference between that and me? I've had someone say that to me on LSD before. Like I don't even know like if there is like a discrepancy, like a distinction between what I am and what I'm seeing is, because it's like you're seeing something that looks real with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
If you see shit that is real with your eyes open that isn't fucking there, that's crazy. Which I've also done.
Yeah.
That's why okay, disclaimer time. Because the DMT is not like a fucking toy. And I would not even have, like if someone was like, oh, I want to do DMT, I'd be like, okay, what's your experience with psychedelics? And if it was 0, I would be like, no. Unless they had a really good reason, and then I would say, then go to a shaman. And then if they were cool, and I would have them go to the guy that I know. But like, I would never have someone just randomly do DMT. No one would do it that I haven't talked to beforehand. I wouldn't do psychedelics with anybody that I didn't talk about all that beforehand, unless it's a microdose. But
Yeah.
I would probably do psychedelics with you just as without knowing anything more about you. I would hang out with you because you're probably funny as shit on it.
I laugh a lot.
people who are like
I'm very like
people who
curious.
can adapt and who are kind of funny are the best on psychedelics, because if you can adapt and you've already done some of the big ones, because when you're faced with things that are like insane, like they're
People panic.
yeah. So I'm gonna step back. So all psychedelics have like an onset. They have like a peak acting, and I don't know on this way. They have like an onset, and then there's like a time that they're in the blood. And these are all drugs, right? All medicines and stuff, and then it comes down. Generally a bell curve. Sometimes those are longer, sometimes they're sharper and more. So psilocybin, roughly like 90 minutes gets to like the peak. Sometimes like right at 2 hours. LSD's more at 2 hours. Psilocybin's kind of like at an hour and a half. You're at peak, and then the peak for a mushroom trip is depending on the dose and the person and like all that shit. But generally is going to be
How much food?
It's going to be like 4 to 6 hours. Yeah, you should always do it fasted if you're inexperienced. But 4 to 6 hours total for a psilocybin trip. So like the peak is going to be like 2 hours. But on LSD, the peak's like 3 or 4. Have you done LSD?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's awesome. Because it's longer and it's different. And
I really want to.
Has different
I just
qualities
haven't.
to it.
I just haven't found somebody that I trust to do it with. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't do this stuff, but yeah, I've had done a variety of groups of different kinds of people that are new, people that are experienced, and I've studied Johns Hopkins stuff. I've read a lot of different guidebooks. I've read a lot of the researcher books. I've read books on like the Huichol Indians and their peyote ceremonies.
Yeah.
I've read all these different like spirituality books, and so I combine all that methodology. It's pretty simple. Johns Hopkins, you're golden. MAPS, Johns Hopkins, you're golden if you follow that stuff. But like, you make a ritual and you fucking have an intent and you prepare for it. Because so right now you don't seem depressed, but I've been depressed with a gun to my head before. But when I would like plan a psychedelic journey or experience or healing session, then I would be like, all right, now let me titrate my life into this. Like if I was like not giving a shit about myself and like literally like trying to not kill myself every day, then putting like, okay, next Tuesday I'm gonna do fucking mushrooms, then I'd be like, all right, let's get some good sleep to lead up to that. Let me like really buckle down on the meditation. Let me pay attention to what I'm eating, because like generally you want to cleanse your body and have like a non-inflamed body, because all of that is part of it, because it's a holistic thing.
Yeah.
And then another disclaimer as I continue, psychedelics are not they're not a catch-all. They're not like you're going to be healed once. They can do that. So it's hard to not sell that. But like, I wouldn't have anybody, even your DMT thing you had 2 months ago, it's going to mean something different in 2 more months. Mm-hmm. It's going to mean something different in a year as far as value that it has.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't have to do it again. But usually when you have a lot of stuff like you do, or you like to explore, then you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I like to explore, and then we have a lot of stuff. But you should come to my new house in the mountains when I move there.
I'll come up there.
Because I've done it a lot in the mountains, and
I have a cabin at Fairplay that's at
I saw
10,000.
that,
It's
yeah.
at 10,500 feet.
the elevation's rough to sleep there, but that place is probably cool to do.
It is.
I just because
It's magical.
I saw in your wife's thing.
When you
on
walk
your
out into the
Instagram.
forest there, it's just like
yeah,
dead silence. And then at night, the stars are just like, it feels like you can grab them. You know,
yeah.
they're just so
Can you
close.
see the Milky Way?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Because every night in Afghanistan you can see it. There's good lack of light pollution in most of Colorado.
Yeah,
A lot of states don't have that.
yeah. There's a lot of areas you can get where there's not that light pollution.
Yeah. So you have So go ahead.
Yeah, when you talk about sorry, I almost lost my train of thought. I was getting a fucking zone here.
Onset.
Water.
So back to that whole thing. So DMT, when we smoke DMT, is like the onset is probably like in 60 seconds, and then it's kind of having an effect often. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and fill up. So when we're talking about that, it's like a very potent, intense thing that lasts like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's different than the toad. Have you like read about toad, the 5-MeO DMT?
Oh, we've been talking a lot. I've been talking about a lot of that. He calls it bufo.
Because it's a Latin word for toad.
Yeah, he calls it bufo. And he said
I think the
so
species is bufo
we're gonna
something.
do it. We're working on like getting a time because he's like, I need time with you. So
Has this person done it before?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. He's got a PhD and everything. He's
The guy that regular DMT, the onset super quick, lasts like 5-10 minutes. The toad, which is if the people who are working with it call it toad, but it's not to diminish what it is to call it something flippantly. It's because the shamans who use it believe that there is a spirit of the toad that is the substance, because it's this venom from the Sonoran Desert frog that lives in the Sonoran Desert that's in Mexico and like New Mexico and down Arizona. And so if your guy, I assume this is the case, but like anybody who's like if anybody ever seeks this substance out, which I don't think anybody needs to or should, I'll just say it that way. And if you do, then you should never do it like in some flippantly recreational way, because whatever DMT is, like Toad is like the shaman was like, it's like at least 10 times more powerful than DMT.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's not the same. It's not even visual with your eyes closed. That's what he said. But where was I going?
It's really intense.
Yes, and because the 5-MeO DMT and Toad, the spirit of the Toad will go directly to what the injury or what the problem is,
the root,
and it'll do something to it immediately. It's a heat-seeking missile, so that's why, like mushrooms, you can like massage things over time. If you're using them therapeutically, you can kind of massage through trauma and shit like that. If someone had a very distinct thing that they wanted to address, and it was trauma related, then Toad is for that person. But Toad is not for someone who's like, I want to fucking explore consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, you can definitely do that with Toad, but like, there's only so much of it because you have to milk it from the Toad. And to not kill the Toad, they get like a piece of glass, they put his little fucking poison glands on it, and they only do like 4 out of the 8 of them because then he gets to live.
Do we have? You think they have videos of them extracting it?
I don't know, but it's a sanctuary, so nobody should be doing this in the wild. And there's a sanctuary that ethically sources the venom, which turns into a flake, and that flake is what you vape. And so the only time anybody should be messing with a substance if it's ethically sourced from one of these sources. So that's my opinion, and I agree. Hopefully that everybody would put that out. So like it keeps the species of the Toad alive is what it does. And then there's only so much of it, and then so you have to acquire the stuff that is ethically sourced, you have to be in this like network. So you already have to be like not a fucking idiot or a piece of shit or something. Right. Ideally, because there are weirdos who do all this shit.
Yeah, there are.
But generally, your person who is administering that should probably be some sort of spiritual person, like a shaman, and then they would get that stuff, and then they would have an entire ceremony so that you are protected. Because the shamans believe there's like a lot of like bad shamanism out there that is using like black magic to like steal people's souls and set them up with a Toad session to crack them open, and then let them take their energy and shit. So I don't know how I feel about all that, but like he believes it. My shaman does.
I believe it.
So
I believe in energy, brother. Like it's all.
I know all that is the case.
It doesn't just.
I don't know what our extent is of being able to like extract it out of people, but that's scary. So when the shaman, when I was telling you earlier, I was talking about like setup, how it makes it a thing. Like if someone doesn't believe in the stuff that you and I are just talking about, then the fact that he goes around with the sage and the tobacco and does things around the room and does things to your body, that is him
the tobacco
protecting
with the nostrils. Is that what you're talking about?
No, but that's who he chose. That's like American Indian stuff or Mexican area. That would be interesting because they do that for peyote ceremonies.
Well, that's how we did the DMT. But after I did my meditation, we did a little
tobacco.
Tobacco. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And then
he said it just opens you up. Like,
so as far as the Toad, it lasts like 20, 30 minutes, like as far as the session of that. But the way that this guy did it, and I agree with this, is he calls it a handshake. So you sound like when you did your regular DMT, I say regular.
The regular. The unleaded.
When you did that, lost my train of thought. You, what was I just saying right before that? I just need like one word.
When I did my regular DMT.
Yeah, I know, but like right before that sentence.
So you said it sounds like when you did your regular DMT.
Compared to the Toad. Oh, you had a big dose and you blasted off.
Yeah.
So in regular DMT lore, I get that from Sturgill Simpson, who's like written music about DMT. Yeah. But the blast off is like when you, and the new vernacular I use for that is getting cracked open. But getting cracked on Toad is different than regular DMT. Very different. But you just basically you just went into it. And when I did it with my shaman, you basically get a sip of it, and so he calls it a handshake. You're like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and you hang out with it, and you're like, oh, this is what this one is, because they're all different.
Yeah,
some of them are like just subtly different, and the handshake. It's weird. I don't really know how to describe the handshake, but one of them I was like, that seemed almost like the thing right there. And then so last year, that's not it. Sonoran desert toad. That's a Colorado River toad. Sonoran. I don't think that's it.
That's what I searched for, and then you go down and
It
actually
does say
has
that,
the
yeah.
information about it.
That's
I don't
confusing.
know why the
Search
Colorado
Sonoran.
River
Go to
toad,
images.
Like if you
Go to
Google
images.
So
Find this thing.
when you do it with the shaman, he does these handshakes, and if I look at that, I'm going to get distracted. I'm sorry. He does handshakes, and so you kind of like hang out with it, and then you can have a period of rest in between where you can get up and go take a piss and shit like that. So if like you and I were doing it together in this scenario with this guy, we could be in the room, and then we would both get handshakes, and we'd be hanging out, and we could do our own thing, or we could do whatever. He's like, it's your ceremony. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So if you wanted to chant or whatever, chanting is fucking cool. If you've never done chant on psychedelics, like Kundalini,
I haven't.
I've chanted a lot. It's always creating animal interactions
Yeah?
all the time.
Okay.
Different animals.
into
Dude, I've
that.
tripped before. Sorry. I don't think it's valuable to hear people's like trips all the time.
Yeah.
But I have had an experience where I've seen like a tree of life and seen limbs where there's an animal, and it's like animals I've interacted, bunnies, because there were a bunch of bunnies at one of my old houses in the mountains, and I would see them on mushrooms. One of them just hung outside for like 6 hours, and I perceived it to be a mother. Like, in a different way than like your experience, but like this bunny
No, I
sat
get it.
in the sun all day and didn't move, and it never did that ever again. And there's another one out front, and I walked out like all drunk on mushrooms, like
Yeah.
and it was like, oh fuck, and I was like, whoa, dude. I was like, hey, chill, you can stay. And he was like, and I was like, I'm sorry for scaring you. You can stay. And he hung out for like 3 hours, and I'd go out and like sing to him and shit, like so. I don't know where all that came from, but back to the toad. So
Well,
you do handshakes,
yeah.
and you get acquainted with it, and you might do like 2 or 3
Get
of them.
comfortable.
And then it's like, okay, now we're gonna do Derek's thing, and I may do a handshake, or I may just kind of like hang out. But what I'm doing is holding space for your experience in healing.
Yeah.
And if I'm like your friend, or even if I'm a stranger, have you ever had someone hold space for you, or
No.
a fucking room of people?
No.
It's insane. Because like, if I look at you right now, or we're doing the drug or not, and we're just hanging out, and I'm like, hey, no matter what happens or what you tell me about anything you've done or said or that you've thought, like, I'm not gonna have any fucking change of how I view you, and I'm just gonna observe it, and that's not gonna change anything how I feel. So whatever happens in this room, you could pull out your dick, you could take a shit, you could fucking puke all over the place, and I don't care. I'm holding space to allow you to do whatever the fuck you need to do to get whatever craziness is inside of you and push it out to the rest of all whatever the fuck this is, so that you can have balance between inside and outside of you.
So you
so
got
that's
some
holding
peace
space.
and,
So
some
so
peace,
that's
man.
what the value of like doing it with someone else who's kind of on the same page. So that like I'm fucking
You don't
doing like
feel
I'm doing
judged.
full mission briefs before doing psychedelics with people, because I'm like doing this conversation with them.
Yeah.
I'm finding out, hey, why are you wanting to do this? Like, what's your intention? Okay, here's the possibility of what can happen on this substance that I know of. And then these are the things that can happen, because once you get to certain threshold doses, not on the DMTs, because those are like you're basically crossing the threshold immediately with those. But when you go up in dosaging, you get to the point of depersonalization and derealization. Depersonalization with myself, like I'm not a thing. Like, this isn't my body. You start like, this, what the fuck? These aren't my hands. This feels weird. This feels like someone else.
Yeah.
And then derealization, like, this doesn't feel like reality. Like, is this fake? Like, why is it moving? It gets to the point where those two things, like, when no one has experienced those, they get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And when I'm with them, I'm like, it's hard for me, because I'm like, if you just get over this, we can have so much fun.
Yeah.
If you just fucking get over this, so we
Just
can hang out.
Is it like, do you think it's like an acceptance? Like, just accept it and don't try to question it too much?
The thing that people always say with psychedelics, you've probably heard it, is I'm afraid of losing control, which is fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Because they think that there's control.
They
to
think they
begin
actually
with.
have control.
That we have control of. You don't even have control of what I'm listening to what I say right now,
Yeah.
or how you feel about it.
Yeah. You don't even have control of your own emotions most of the time. Like, you.
Right. So, I'm getting to the point where it's hard to remember what I'm saying. So we're gonna have to work together on this. But
No, it's fine.
So that's why, like,
Yeah.
mission. So what's your intent? And then you can set the experience up with mindset and setting. So that would be part of if I was teaching a class, I would have done all this in the beginning of like, here's what psychedelics are. This is what they do to you. These dosages get you up to depersonalization, derealization. And then you can go beyond that where like you can't even have a fucking thought anymore. Like that's past DMT. So
What do you mean that's past?
what you had in DMT is some.
There's,
So
I just
you've been
cracked the
high
surface.
on,
is
you've
what
been
you're
high
saying.
on cannabis, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so high on cannabis.
The worst trips of my life are always on cannabis. The worst ones.
I always use
Like
cannabis.
when you talk about like this isn't reality. Like one time
just cannabis
I'm
or
gonna
something else.
just cannabis.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell a story that I probably shouldn't tell, but I'm gonna fucking tell it anyways. Training camp. I take a 150 milligram edible, and I fucking blasted.
Why?
Because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I had no clue.
Did you know how much it was?
No.
Oh, okay.
Had no idea until like
I thought you were like 150. This sounds like a good idea.
no.
Okay.
It was just a brownie that one of my
Joey
teammates
Diaz
gave me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of my teammates gave it to me. He's like, "Hey, eat half of this, and then even half is fucking out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little corner of that is all I need." And he was like,
Joey Diaz Browning.
"Yeah." He said, "Take half of this, and then in like 30 minutes, take the other half." And I'm like, "He's like, and you'll fucking knock out, and you'll get a great night's sleep." I'm like, "All right," because I was just like, I wasn't sleeping good. Like I
Did you
wasn't.
sleep through the night? Did you
No,
sleep through practice?
I
or
didn't
something?
sleep for 2 days.
Oh.
Dude, that night I hallucinated so bad I thought I was driving a car.
That's a funny sentence.
Yeah. I was like, I'm driving a car. Wait, no, you're not. And then I was like, wait, there's people outside of my room. I was in a hotel room at training camp.
If you're not used to THC, then having like 100 mgs is insane. Especially
And I was very
eating it,
inexperienced with
'cause it-
THC. Very
because it
inexperienced.
metabolizes it differently than when you smoke it. You
It
can't
was
get that much
fucked
smoking.
up. I was
you
fucked
cough.
up for 2 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, this is terrible.
So you were at training camp. What year was that?
This was 2000.
Well, are we going to
It was the-
incriminate you if we say that?
No, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not even going to say when, but it was at training camp, and I had to miss a day of camp because of it. I had told him I had food poisoning, and when they came to check on me, I sat on the toilet and took drinks of water and acted like I was throwing up in at the same time because I was like fucking gone, and my eyes were bloodshot red, and I looked like a fucking psychopath. So I was like, I need a day. Just give me 1 day and I'll be good. Promise I'll be back. But like I took those 2 days and I was fucking good. You know, it was all out of my system. But
The times when I've heard people talk about the worst cannabis, it's always edibles when they didn't know it.
yeah, I just
Sturgill-
didn't realize
Sturgill
it.
had one like that when he's in public and like the hallway closed in or something.
Dude, we had a guy in practice one time. We were in a meeting just fucking fall over because he took too many edibles. Like he just fell over and they thought he had a
You
seizure.
know why? Because you guys weren't allowed to smoke. So
Yeah.
dudes were having edibles to try and get THC because they couldn't smell like it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's because then if dudes were able to smoke a joint or something, like
Yeah, we could've
you know
just-
how I know how I can do medicine. I can fucking do a shoot house when I'm high. I can do all that. I can do a lot of it on LSD too. But like I know some of the dudes that you played with. I don't know, I don't know about you, how you are with THC, but some of them will be better on it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like
I don't know Marshawn Lynch, but I mean, like, if he wanted to beat people up and he like chilled out a little with like weed or alcohol before a game, like I don't know what his deal is, but like I feel like
there was
I
guys
can
that would drink
fucking-
Hennessy before games. You know, there's
I
guys.
like that they're doing that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and when I talk about like the shrooms that I would take before games, because it fucking locked me into what I was about to be doing. Like,
Panthers, dude. Panthers sometimes eat that in the jungle.
yep.
I don't know if I'm making that up or I'm just repeating something.
Well,
but
I know that the fucking Vikings used to take it. before-
Microdosing, though, you could tell, like, because pupil dilation, your visual acuity is, if you're blown out, it's kind of like abrasive. But if you have a little bit, that increases your acuity, you know? And then
Everything was slowed down.
Here on mushrooms, do you ever feel, like, is it loosey-goosey to you? Like, do you feel drunk when you're moving around?
No.
Because I am always on
when
legs.
I take too much mushrooms.
Right.
Yeah. When I take like a bigger
LSD's not
dose.
like that. LSD is it's almost like it improves your kinesthetic awareness.
Oh,
Yeah, like you
Okay.
have better agility and balance. One of my friends,
it's funny. My wife told me that.
had one of my wheelchairs and it didn't have safety fucking flip over bars or wheels, and he was just like up, like popping a wheelie for like 40. I'm not kidding, but like for 40 minutes, and he was like, I can't stop doing it. He was on LSD.
Yeah.
And he just went around the room and he stayed on, but he was just balanced like on the giant wheel,
Yeah.
like, without anything else being down. He just balanced on that for like 40 minutes on LSD. LSD's sweet.
Do you think it just unlocks something?
It's not necessary.
I
for
really
heat.
want
It's
to
not-
try it.
It's
man.
not.
Like,
it's
I've
not
been
like
wanting to try it for about this. Just like a heads up here. I've been wanting to try LSD for like 3 years now. So, like, I've been.
I don't know if we should be saying all this, but it's hard for me to find it here. But
Well, I can get it. I mean, I could just get just about anything.
all right. Well, then we'll talk about more of that later. But I will do it with you. I will do all these with you.
All right.
I'll do a shaman toad thing with you. I was gonna do one soon, and then I think that doing it with friends or other people would be better than solo. Solo's not bad, and I haven't even told you about that. But so come. What do you want to go from here? Do you want?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about where did we go? Where were we at before we even started talking about this?
Well, I was talking about psychedelics
Like an hour
in
ago.
general.
What were we talking about an hour ago?
My injury, your injury.
Oh, you know what we were talking about? Hold on, I
we
know.
have three
I know.
main. We
I
have
already
three
know.
main lines.
I already know. We were talking about we have 3 main lines. We were on my my EMDR treatment and how that led that
Bouncing
was
between my injuries and then psychedelics is in the middle because your EMDR leads to psychedelics.
yeah,
right?
because we bounced to we bounced to your stepping on the IED, and before that we were talking about how I was 14. I had to go heal the 14-year-old, and then after that we went into the past lives. So then she took me into these past lives, and I went to. And this is some wild shit, and I talked about it on Rogan.
This is all here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all,
I'll have to
this
watch
is
your
all
interview then.
in my head, and it's so what happened was they take me and I wake up in this lucid dream, but it's not a dream. It's like really fucking happening. And I wake up in this bed and it's like fur. I'm like laying on furs.
Dude, you got wild stuff.
Yeah, dude, I'm laying on this bed of furs.
This is really detailed.
Yeah, dude, it was like fucking vivid. Like I wake up on these bed of furs, and I'm like looking around, and then my wife is beside me. Like it looks just like my wife beside me, like dark hair. You know,
When
very
you're when you're
fit.
seeing this, are you like aware that you're doing EMDR, or now, or is this like you just
No,
woke
now
up, you
I'm
wake
just
up,
now
you
I wake
and-
up. Now I wake up and I'm like, you know, and I get up and then my wife gets up and she starts like putting my fucking armor on me. So she's like putting like these leathers on me. Like she puts like this fur thing on me and then like leather over it. And then like there's no mirrors anywhere, obviously. So like I don't see what I look like, but I'm moving and I'm looking at her.
Are you automatically moving,
And
or
it's-
are you choosing?
Well, it was weird because there was 2 women in the room with me. So it was like my wife and like whoever this other person was, you know?
like a surfer. Or
Yeah,
something.
who knows what it was, you know? But we were in bed together, so we were all in bed. And I was like in the middle, and like I wake up and I like look around, and I'm like, and I get up, and she, like I said, my wife helps me, and she like, and then she puts her shit, she puts her shit on, and we walk out, and there's all these soldiers, and they're like all in fucking furs, they're all fucking Viking soldiers.
This is all in EMDR, right?
Yes, they're
That's wild.
0 hallucinogens.
What's your? Do you know where your family's from specifically?
Scandinavia.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where that's. And
Mine's
this
like
is,
Slovakia, Ukraine.
Yeah, and that's why my like a big issue with me was I never knew where I came from because I didn't know my father. Like the Wolf name, the Wolf name
That's
is
why
my
the
stepdad's
ancestry
name.
is so powerful for you.
Yeah, the Wolf name is my stepdad's name. I took that from him. I said, "Fuck you, buddy. That's my name now." Because my mom she didn't know who my dad was. She doesn't know. She
so you
was.
didn't have it.
It could have been fucking.
I was just talking to
She said
someone
she'd go on
today
3-month
about
blackouts.
I was like, I think you should be able to pick your name.
I think so too. Yeah, I should be able to pick especially where I came from. I was like, I'm taking that fucking name. It's a cool name. But anyways, I had to emancipate myself to do it and everything because he wouldn't give me it. He wouldn't adopt me as a kid. He was with my mom when I was 3 months old, and he wouldn't adopt me because he's a piece of shit.
Cool.
So I just walk out and there's all my fucking like my tribe.
Yeah.
It's like a whole tribe, and it's the mission is clear in my head of what we have to do. Like we have to go kill these fucking guys. Like we're going to kill all of them. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. And we just go and we get into this battle. Like
This is
we
really
just,
elaborate.
it's crazy. I walk out and I walk to the front of them and we just walk into battle. Like they were already there waiting for me. Like the other the other side.
Yeah.
And we start battling and I'm like fucking cutting people's heads off. I have an axe in one hand and a sword in the other. And I'm like fucking like fucking stick it. I can like, you know, in like a horror movie where it's like, damn, that looked kind of real. Like fucking axe to the fucking forehead, like in the blood, like I could feel it hit my face.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
That's a
chopping heads,
a
like
full sensory experience.
Yeah, it was a full sensory experience, like fucking chopping.
Did you feel fatigue in your muscles?
Yeah, yeah. My arms
crazy.
felt so heavy, you know, like they felt because I could feel the weight of the sword and the axe, like the top heaviness of this axe.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I was using it more as like a block to block things.
Yeah.
Than as like an actual weapon.
This was very elaborate.
Yeah, because it was like, and I'm like fucking stabbing and fucking doing this and doing that, and then next thing I know, I get hit in the back of the head. And I'm like laying there and everything's like kind of blurry and I roll and I look around and it's like in my head, it goes, what's my dad doing here? This guy looks like my father. And then I look,
the version of you in the vision or your actual father?
It was like, you know how like if you saw if you were to see your dad, you would know it was your dad.
Okay.
I just knew I was like, Dad?
Your dad?
I was being betrayed.
Or the guy in the scenario? Oh, you were like getting hit by the dad and the Viking dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was betraying me.
Okay.
Like, I was being betrayed because I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? And then I see, like, my intuition tells me that's my brother. And then fucking next thing I know, there's an axe coming, chops my head off. And that's it. I wake up. I come out of it and I'm like fucking sweating.
That was EMDR.
I'm sweating and I'm fucking got tears just running down my eyes. And all this, but it's crazy because my head gets cut off. And well, I say that's the end, but that's not how it like, my head gets cut off and it's like fading out. And I could see like I could see them like taking my wife away from me, like them like dragging her, you know? And it was the weirdest thing.
What that? You got your head cut off.
Yeah.
This probably opened something up with this that linked that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Yeah. Whatever.
Like if that was if that actually happened,
somehow.
if that was actually like happened to someone, then because like whether it's death or psychedelics, like with this concept of time, like doesn't exist outside of this universe. And I feel like there's stuff outside of whatever the fuck this is, right? And so if time only makes sense while you're living on the river of it, then when you're not on the river of it, is it just all accessible? I don't know, but like it seems to all have access to the same place.
Yeah.
And so like this is enough to create an energetic opening that is like tearing a seam. That, as I would call it, if I was writing a story about this or something, like it tears a seam, because I've had visions on DMT of like tearing through realm. Yeah. And like
that space time.
Yeah, where like things are looking at me or I go and interact with it and shit like that. I think to me that's related.
Oh, it's definitely related.
Specifically the neck thing. What you told me about your.
Yeah, it's the betrayal, and then the white. I knew when I came out of it. I knew when I came out of it that like the reason why I was being betrayed is because they did not want me to. My wife, when my wife came into my life, this is real life now. When my wife came into my life, she exposed a lot of people for who they really were.
In your life.
In my life. Yeah. For the fucking scum that they were.
Yeah.
And
like she was kind of with you and observing like, hey, this isn't as good as like these people don't.
Because I don't know what a good relationship looks like.
Yeah.
And what a friendship is actually supposed to look like, or what this is supposed to look like. I don't know what that all looks like because I just was fucking.
You had no model for it.
Chameleon, just fitting in where I could.
But you had no model for it, and if anything, you had like the misrepresentation.
Exactly. So I knew what it's not supposed to look like. So if it's not, it was so extreme that like small little things that people would do, I just would ignore because it's like, whatever. At least he's not fucking holding me up by my neck and choking me till I piss myself, and then calling me a pussy and kicking me in the stomach. Like that's the way I was treated. So like as long as it's not that bad, then fuck, it's whatever, you know. Somebody calls me an idiot or dumb or you know lies to me. It's like whatever, you know. It's not that bad. That's how I looked at it.
You've got an interesting. The last few years of your life have been pretty interesting, huh? For you,
a lot of growing has happened, man. Like
4 years probably, right? When did you get out?
This is my second year of retirement.
Okay. 4-year-old, but your last couple years were IR, right? Were they
just my last season? Just 2021. So 2021 season was on IR.
Elbow?
No, that was I had both hip labrums torn off the bone, and then I had to get I had to do major hip surgeries.
In the same instance, or like just
One
and
happened.
tear.
It was fucked up the way it happened. One happened in training camp. I got high load. Like I got hit. I was twisted. Like my right leg was crossed over my left leg,
Yeah.
and I was trying to get through, and I got hit in the head and then hit in the low back at the same time by 340-pound dudes. You know, and it just fucking. And I like
So that
curled
was
up
one
in
of the labrum?
Yeah, and that was the right labrum.
Okay.
Tore that off the bone, and then when I did stem cells and epidurals to try to come back from that, and when I was training to come back from that,
Epidural?
yeah,
What was in the epidural? Like
they
for
just-
pain?
right in the spine, yeah,
For pain?
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. And then you have to take it takes 2 weeks for it to really kick in, you know.
I had 3 epidurals, but they were like the permanent ones.
Yeah, where they're just stuck in there. Yeah, these are just the shots.
I was fucking paralyzed for like 3 weeks because of those.
I hate
just,
that
like,
feeling.
I couldn't move or fucking feel anything, but it like addressed some of the pain. But then I started having nerve pain.
Well, that's kind of what
They had to,
I was
like-
having a lot of
they had to,
nerve
like,
pain down my
roll-
legs.
They had to like roll me to like pick shit out of my ass and stuff. Like I was fucked up.
So wrapping up, dude, and thank you, man. Thank you. Like your story is fucking incredible, and it's awesome. It was awesome that we were able to like share and relate on things, and let's leave it with like how you're doing now, like coming out of surgery. What did that look like?
Well, I had like 30 of them.
I know, but I'm saying like coming out of that. What we showed
I'm
when
probably
you were
like
laying in bed.
I'm gonna give you broad strokes because like if I get caught in the weeds and I'll get like in the minutia and I get on tangents and stuff, but broad strokes like disability. So you left the league, you kind of did what you wanted 10 years, but you almost had a disability, so you kind of have sort of understanding of this because you had a temporary like what the fuck, and then luckily it wasn't permanent.
Yeah.
So imagine if that was.
Well, I have a disability up here. Like I have.
What's that?
With the brain shit, like
Right.
it's hard for me to like keep
I understand.
my focus.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, what was I just saying?
You were saying disability. You're coming out of there
so
with
I'm
a disability. So you're disabled.
And then, like, I can't do my job anymore. And then my social network is gone. And then COVID happens. And so,
dude.
So then there's like a year where my social network was with the person I was in a relationship with and their family. And judiciously, to sum that up, I would say that there's kind of a lack of understanding about trauma and its wounds and effects and stuff, and kind of created some. That relationship is not here.
Well, that's
is the summary of that.
That's probably really difficult.
That is not the only one either, because I lost like the 4 closest people in my life last year are not here anymore, other than my mom and my brother, with the unconditional love that I'm glad that you at least got on the DMT.
Yeah.
Hey, I love you too. So you have it
you,
unconditionally. Okay. Microdose. And so I'm disabled. I have like loss of job. I have loss of like social network. And then that relationship, you get dropped on like Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
And somewhere around then, to me, it was like Christmas Eve. It was like the day or two before. A couple Christmases, not last one, but the one before. And then so I came to Denver to try to like salvage some stuff, and it didn't work out. And then, but some friends fell out too. But I guess if I had to summarize that judiciously, it would be like the effects of the symptoms that you get have an effect on how you interface with people, and that like hypervigilance, lack of trust. Those are all things that you seem to know from a long period of time, and I didn't understand them as from my childhood, which is not. We do this thing where we compare our traumas back and forth. Anybody does it with like legs, and I'm looking at your
Well, it's all
childhood. I'm like, God,
perspective.
you had to like deal with that, and you're like, oh, you have to deal with this, you know. Like,
Yeah.
But like you change your identity, and it's just like boom, everything's different. And then like whatever you thought, like what the fuck's going on? Why did this happen? Like what is this? Like what is the point of this? Like do I want to keep going? And then, I think like this is why I survived, to like be with this person and to like have like I want to be married and try to have a kid and stuff like that. And then like you think that like that is why, like okay, like maybe something good can finally come out of all, and then it goes poof, and that's
And it's
all
gone.
So that was what happened. And if I didn't have a puppy, I think I'd be dead, and cannabis, Callie and cannabis. But I got her.
What kind of dog?
She's a Bernedoodle. That she saw
Yeah.
a puppy picture on that Instagram, but like. Got her like a year ago, and then I got to Denver a year ago, and then things were not good. and then Toad.
And that changed
Broad
everything,
strokes
right?
is Toad, but then I was very, very after getting the relationship was gone, I was incredibly, devastatingly sad, like crying like 10 times a day, like puking incessantly, like having like fucking full on like panic attacks. So to make that stop, I just was like, I want to die. And that was like right before I got Callie, and then after I got her, it was more of that.
How did pets are like so incredible. How did that come about? Like, how did you even?
I was looking at getting a dog for a while, and then I was like, I'll get it like a Bernedoodle breed. Got introduced to them from knowing some people, and then they don't shed, and then they're also like the cutest fucking thing ever, man. Yeah. They're soft, and she's funny all the time. Like, I gotta leave so I can get back to her in a few minutes. You know, like I don't like being away from her because like every time I cry, she licks my tears. And like she takes care of me. She's only one, and she takes care of me, so I take care of her. And I'm like, hey, we're like whatever I think my heart is, it's like she's a part of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like she. And so when I did the Toad, I was so devastatingly sad. I was puking all the time, and I haven't told the full story of the Toad. We can maybe do it next time. But like when I had the large hit, when it was no longer the handshake, and it was what my shaman calls getting cracked open, I had been vomiting every day. I'd vomit every time I was in the shower. It was like not cool. And when I cracked open on the Toad, remember I told you that Toad goes 100% heat seeking right away? I was just like puking into a bucket, and I was like, you fucking idiot. You just paid someone to come over and like give you a thing that's making you puke when you fucking hate puking, you stupid fuck. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was just, but for like a minute and a half, I'm like, and on something that is way more powerful than DMT. I'm like,
and so it's violent, right?
It didn't hurt.
Oh, it didn't.
The whole time it didn't hurt.
So was it like? I was just like, what did it feel like? Did it feel good?
No, but it didn't hurt like it normally does.
Yeah,
and I was just like, it was coming out. And I was like, I know this needs to fucking happen. It's so stupid. And I was like, why does it keep going? Like, why? When is it gonna stop? Yeah. And then I was like, angry as fuck, which is what happened for the next 6 months probably. And I was just like, man. I was like, turn the fucking music off. He's like doing sound bowls and animal noise and shit, like all these things we'll talk about later, but like that help. And I was like, stop all that shit. And I was just like give me some water. And I was like, the whole time I'm like, God damn, this is dumb. And then it was just so fucking weird. And then I was like, oh, like then I started paying attention to how I felt, and I couldn't help it. It was like being enlightened. And I was like, I feel like I said it out loud, like I'm enlightened right now. Like the way that you read about Buddha, that there is no past or future, there is only right now. Like putting your fucking toe into a river and you're only feeling that, but you're feeling that as if you focused all your attention on one thing, one blade of grass. Like you're like, oh, everything I have is focusing on one blade of grass, and everything is like that. And that's Toad.
That makes sense to me.
But
and I can't wait
so
to do it.
Confusing, and it's not visual. I mean, I had like visual, but not like nothing that was like, oh, this is this is the psychedelic visual that is associated with Toad. Because like mushrooms has a thing, LSD and DMT, all those have a visual effect that screensavers over visual stuff when you're looking at it, when you're peeking. And it wasn't really like that. It wasn't like closing my eyes and having like a very vibrant thing that you described. It was just having a fucking experience of being right fucking there and feeling everything that was happening. And I could feel the energy in the room like this. And I was like, I'm not supposed to do anything with this. And I like let it dissipate. And then we did it outside in the sun. Took my legs off. I was kneeling in the grass, and he has a pipe that is made out of mesquite wood that is from the Sonoran Desert where this Toad lives, and he like fucking torches it for you, and you do all that hyperventilating stuff we were talking about. I did it outside. That's why I know the blade of grass thing, because the sun was on me. There was nothing but me breathing. It was it was like intense, but so much so I was just on my hands and my knees in the sun in the middle of fucking yard on like a fucking Thursday in October, and just going, because I felt like that's all I could do. Like, I don't know, like everything was just gonna like come apart or something. And then as I was doing that, I could just feel fucking everything like I described. And I don't know how to describe it anything other than that, but it was just that really intensely for like half an hour. And then,
Wow.
And then
30 minutes.
he went to parade rest. He was a ranger. I shouldn't have said that part. But that's not really identifying, I guess.
We can cut that out.
Take that out, Lane.
We can cut that out.
But he was standing there, and he just let it happen. He just let me fucking do whatever I want. I like laid down on my back. Dude, where my scar is that I showed you on my back, I can't feel anything on that. I can feel blades of grass all over it. I could feel every blade of grass like I was touching it with my fucking finger that was like a finger, like a tongue that has more sensation than a normal finger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I could feel that
Everything
on my scar.
was heightened, right?
And so that day, like, it's very interesting and strange being on Toad, and you can get activated afterwards. So I was sitting outside, and I was smoking a joint later, which the shaman probably didn't want me to do, but I always smoke weed with the psychedelics, not with DMT or Toad, but on peaking with psychedelics, mushrooms, and LSD, I always smoke because it makes it more intense.
Yeah.
And but I was smoking a joint, and it activated out like later, just in the evening sun, and it was just like almost like the inside of my body is like vibrating. It's like a body high,
Yeah.
but in a way where it's non-dual. There's a non-dual technique with Sam Harris. We were talking about him earlier, where you like look at something and put all your attention on it, and then you look back to see the one that's looking,
Yeah.
or you look for your own head. Or you try to, where's the one that is thinking or hearing or whatever? And the revealing that there is not one there is the exercise. But that happens like automatically on certain threshold doses of psychedelics. And on Toad, it's not, there is no thought. That's what I meant, like beyond DMT,
Yeah.
whatever that means. And in my opinion, there's a threshold that you get after depersonalization, derealization, to the point where there's no longer thinking. Because when you're dead, you're not going to think anymore.
Right.
The thinking is just arising while, I don't know if thinking occurs after we're gone. I don't know. I can't say that for certain. But like as it's here,
it's like, does consciousness live on?
It's just something that is disappearing while we're here. And like all that shit's crazy, dude.
Yeah, dude. Like it opens up the
So
people that haven't had like any kind of psychedelic experience have a hard time even understanding what we're talking about, because like even what you're saying right now, like I am super interested and cannot wait to experience that.
I would say that like we have to say that without a superiority complex.
No,
too.
it's not. Yeah, it's,
just to clarify for anybody listening, because it's not that like there is like a Plato's allegory of the cave thing going on though. Like you can't unsee once you have an experience.
You can't unsee it.
But like for guys like us, in different ways, being able to experience certain sensations, feelings, or emotions is incredibly powerful. Because I have had the same thing happen in different ways like that, and there's nothing else that can do that. You can't like substitute. You can't give a drug and not have the experience and get the same output.
Yeah.
So back to broad strokes, so I can wrap this up. Afterwards, I was fucking pissed. It's like, did that fucking even do anything?
Yeah, because you probably had expectations. Right?
I don't know what I expected, but nothing like what I read happened. Like all this like prismatic rainbow like white light
like
shit,
the levels that you're supposed to hit and stuff,
or
right?
like just because whenever you want to do a drug, if you go and try and read trip reports, it's not going to be like that.
Yeah,
That's what that person had. You are an individual. Like you seem to have a pretty blatant past warrior or past life thing, but like the imagery in your head, aside from that experience, because that's unexplainable to me, but like imagery that has to do with like violence or even Viking related stuff, like could be related to you. It doesn't mean it's fake, but I'm just saying like the fact that it's you doesn't mean that it's going to be like that for him or me.
Right.
Although I want Viking stuff in mind. Maybe I'm not a Viking. I don't know. I'm a Neanderthal, I think. So are you, though. So broad strokes, I was very angry. I wasn't really listening to music because I couldn't handle it, and I started listening to a lot of hip hop. I started studying hip hop, and then I started writing hip hop, basically rap songs, because I write poems ever since I got hurt.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think you need to do, I don't know how, but I think you have already observed this. You have to take your energy and convert it into something else.
Yeah.
And I've learned that too. And when you don't have legs and you can't like squat or power clean or fucking hit people or whatever the fuck, can't go run or hike or explore or ski, then you have to find other ways to do that. And so I've like learned drumming. I'm going to learn guitar, starting to draw. So as far as I'm going to learn how to paint, watercolor and acrylic, like Bob Ross. Watch Bob Ross a lot. And So what I do, so those are like some of the things I do, but like what I practice yoga, like old school yoga from the Yoga Sutras. And I'll show you a book that if you like to read and go through things that way, then I learned a lot from this book regarding a practice of yoga, which is sort of similar to what you did with your fucking yogini, I think is the technical term, that you were seeing for a bit. But yoga is an awareness practice where you're doing a bunch of different holistic health things, but it's generally building awareness so that you can observe what is good and bad that happens to you, how it makes you feel, so you can just do something differently.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a practice that results in change. Like people naturally want to change because they do it. Like, I'm like,
it takes action.
I think I might do yoga and my breath work like before I even start coffee. Just do it right when I wake up because I don't want to I don't want to miss it. Because if I don't do it, like, I don't know what your body's like. I know it's fucked up in some degree, but if you catalog it, we won't get done tonight. But like, if I don't do yoga, I'm fucked up physically. Yeah. Like my spine is fucked up. I have to lengthen it every day.
Align yourself.
So I'm doing asanas, and I learned how to do the asanas. Then I do the pranayama breath work. And then I do kundalini, Om Namo, and I do chants for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll get in the sauna and meditate, and I do that every day. If I don't do that, then I want to murder people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's your routine. That is your routine and keeps you right.
So I'm a yogi in that sense, and that I do. There's all kinds of different yogas. In the Yoga Sutra, there's like 9 of them, I think. Actually, I think there's more, but there's 9 in the book that he covers. And I learned Kundalini separate from all that too. But the Kundalini is the chanting, which is the Vu thing that we were talking about. Like, so all that stuff is super beneficial because it's like opening our bodies, full range of motion, stretch the spine out, pump these glands in your fucking balls and your cock and your asshole, like pump all those like by contracting them and doing mudras and shit, and then let that energy kind of have a seamless column inside of you, and then let that. So yoga is basically saying you have apana in you. It's like the bad like energy, and then prana is the good energy, pranayama. And so you're trying to inhale to like clear out the apana. It's like essentially like black inside of you, black smoke.
Yeah,
you're trying to inhale,
give it a color,
and you want to like purify it. And then, or you can think of a candle in your belly, and you like when you breathe in, the candle's going to your body, like breathing heat into your body to burn the bad shit. And then you exhale, and the candle's going out, and you're exhaling all that heat.
Yeah, we would give it a color. Yeah, It's always black.
Yeah.
Black, leaving
blue and red works, black, because cool and hot. So anyway, that stuff is like what is in the daily practice of doing the yoga. And then you get to the point where you don't think about it, and you're just doing what you need that day. Because yoga is a practice that's individual.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like you work with your guru or your yogi or whatever, and you get an individualized program for you. Yeah. Because like the asanas there's general asanas we can do, which are the positions that you move in, like downward facing dog. But the asanas that help you. Well, that's why my yogi Nancy was so good, because she focused on what I needed, not what she thought I needed. Yeah. Not what she just did what here's what I see is happening. So here's what we're going to do. And then every other yoga instructor I ever worked with after that had like an agenda. You know what's a principle of yoga is that you don't try and teach something that you think that they need to know. You teach them what they can accept at that time. Yeah. And so, but more importantly, and then a side note of that is that she's doing it specifically to you. Yeah. And progressing you. Yeah, it was cool. She was very motherly towards me. She was awesome. So. But I think we need to wrap it up, brother, and do another episode together, because this is just like phenomenal, and I think people love to hear it. Your story is just fucking nuts, dude. Appreciate it. The fact that you are you came out of that shit, and you're a better man for it now, and you're not. I would say I mean, when you progress and you learn, you are better. Yeah, you're growing, right? You're not stuck. Yeah. And I always say this. I say you either get better or you get worse. I wanted to confront you about that because I disagree with that. You did? How? Tell me how you disagree with that. So I can prove it too. Because I saw you say this recently, because Peyton Manning told you that, right? He told me that, and it always stuck with me. Yeah. It is true for football. It's true for when you have a role that you're playing. Okay. That's how I'm... Boom. That's what I'm talking about. When you're hey, I'm trying to Right. But this is my goal. As an individual, though... Like, you don't have to be doing something in order to progress. You can do nothing and progress. And doing nothing is actually important. So, because time, unless time gets fucked up, but right now it's generally going in one direction. And the way that you feel about it after time passes may be different.
Yeah.
So there is change happening regardless. So the word progress is just a function of time.
Yeah.
Of whether, actually, progress is whether you like it or not. It's not an absolute thing. It's just your perception of it.
And when you talk about time, like,
I'm just getting like annoying probably because it's like
no.
words don't mean anything, but like
no,
when
you're
you get
right.
fuzzy, you take a
you're
step
right.
back. It's
You're
like,
you're 100% right about that. Like, because they're like when I talk about you get better, you get worse. Like when you set a goal, there's
for
usually
a football
time,
player,
yeah.
a Green Beret, someone who's trying to be a firefighter, someone who's got a role, someone who's trying to like make money or like be successful in society, that applies.
Yeah.
But being successful in society, this is maybe like the foreshadowing of the next episode. Being successful in society is not the same thing as being alive and enjoying it. Mm-hmm. Because society and everything that is in society, including the money, doesn't fucking matter when you're dying.
Money does not make you happy. Let me make that clear. I've been broke and I've been rich. The money does not make you happy. It makes things easier.
It does. But you do need money, and you can't live without it.
Yeah, but it doesn't make you happy. You can't buy happiness.
But all that, what I would encourage people to do is to figure out what actually matters and what doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And that you can extrapolate that to like news. Like, does this culture war bullshit matter? No, actually, the plutocracy that's like controlling everything matters. You know, like that kind of thing.
It's
but
it's deeper than they could ever imagine.
But what actually matters, and is it? But we have these other things pulling on us. Like you have this guy. Why did he fucking drive like that? I want to fucking.
Rip his fucking
yeah,
head off.
I want
Like,
to.
I
That
wanna
fucking guy. Like.
Throw rocks at him.
Is it that big of a deal? But you have things that are pulling you that are your nervous system.
Yeah.
So you have to soothe your nervous system.
Yeah, exactly.
So anybody that is experiencing like feelings like that, especially with a history that is anything like the two of us, but you have to soothe that, or your wife is going to be upset with you.
Exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate you bringing me on here, man.
thank you,
Especially
man.
after
Thank you so
I don't
much.
even know where you talked to Chad or whatever, but
So I've been talking to Chad.
It was a cool link up.
So it's funny how it worked because I called Chad and I was like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready. I'm on." Where's he at? Down in. He's doing he's walking right now. They're doing a 50 the 50-mile thing right now.
It's insane.
It's 50 for the fallen.
It's too much.
And it's insane.
It's too far.
I'm like, dude, what? And he's like, yeah, we're on hour 12. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we'll be done about noon tomorrow. And I'm like, okay.
I should text him.
And but when I called him, I was calling him because I wanted him to come and record because he and I get along really well and we have just like good rapport.
He likes to network and stuff.
Yeah, and good and he's great at networking and he's good, just fun conversation, you know. And he's like, no, but I got a guy that's perfect. And he gave me your name, and I said, well, dude, I'm not just gonna like reach out to him
because the text I got was he wants to talk to you about DMT, and I was like, all right,
yeah. And he was like, because I had talked to him about DMT because he's always picking my brain about stuff, you know. And I'm like, you know, this is how my experience was. I think you should try it, you know, if that's what you're looking to do, if you're looking to like kind of expand your your knowledge of like yourself, do the DMT, I guess. Like, cause it also, when I did the DMT, it also like made things clear to me, like of what I needed to do.
Yes.
Like it made it clear of like, here's
That's
what
one thing that it definitely does do for healing.
Here's what you should do.
It's not like the solution, but it's like, hey, did you know these are like the list of your problems?
Yeah. And these are what you should
and you're just like, oh shit. And now you got to figure
a
plan.
And this is what you should focus on.
Yeah.
You know, focus on fixing this. It doesn't tell you how to fix it, but it tells you what you should focus on like fixing.
But if you do yoga, it'll help whatever the DMT and the EMDR started. The yoga is like, or something like that is the sustainment.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you, man. I really appreciate you, brother. Like, that was fucking
Let's do it more.
Yeah.
Lane, thanks for sticking in there.
Heck yeah, that's a wrap.